Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is a regular meeting of the Cameron County Commissioners Court, April the 11th, 2013. It is now 8:30 a.m. As we do all meetings, we will start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag. And I'd like to ask Mr. Arnold, where's Arnold? Arnold Flores Jr., since he became a new father on Sunday, I'm going to ask him to lead us in the two pledges at the appropriate time. Please rise. Thank you. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. Thank you. Public comment. Public comments, Mr. Ruiz.
Very enthused about getting the space program going, but first of all, we are very familiar with numerical order since we were in kindergarten. And there is a number one. And number one in this case establishes constitutional law. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution states that all treaties should be respected as to per the agreements. In 1819, the United States government and the country of Spain celebrated the Treaty of Adams-Onís, also known as the Transcontinental Treaty of 1819. And in Article 9 of this treaty, it says, the two high contracting parties animated with the most earnest desire of conciliation and with the object of putting an end to all the differences which have existed between them and of confirming the good understanding which they wish to be forever maintained between them. That establishes perpetuality. This treaty is perpetual. It has no ending. But it also says that the descendants of the Spanish, which I am considered one of them in my family, the Cisneros family, which our coat of arms has the crown of the Spanish queen, tells you that the properties that we acquired from the Spanish crown continue to be our property. The issue of SpaceX is not the desire of the politicians or of the bureaucrats or the businessmen. It belongs to the constitutionality of the law that says that we are the owners and you have to consult us before you go in there. This adds to what? Jurisdiction. The county and the city and the state have no jurisdiction over subject matter.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Ruiz.
This land was stolen from us, and you continue to steal our patrimony. I have advised this commission concerning these matters, and they continue to do so. This is not your jurisdiction, sir. This is the jurisdiction of the U.S. Senate, because the treaties are ratified by the Senate. It also says here in the state of Texas, and whereas the protection of the public domain from unjust and fraudulent claims and quieting the people in the enjoyment of their lands is one of the greatest duties of this convention. That's the jurisdiction. So what I recommend is you stop playing around with the rights of the people and desist from continue to trampling our patrimony. We have had 200 years of this, and you're not going to get away with this because it's the jurisdiction of the U.S. Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz.
So you have how much time allotted for public speaking?
3 minutes.
But 3 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Depends on the speakers, isn't it?
It's at my discretion, sir, but it's 3 minutes. We try to limit it to 3 minutes.
I don't respect your...
That's fine, sir. Mr. Garcia, Oscar, 3 minutes. Judge.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to introduce myself. I am the designee and hopefully the new judge, maybe early next week, for the 357th Judicial District Court. I'm here, first of all, to let you know that I'm here for you. This position, and I'm on a tour right now, introducing myself to everyone as the future judge, and to explain to everyone that I'm here for them. I'm not here for me. It's about this community. It's not about me. And as I go around, I don't know if you can hear me, I ask, what are your expectations for this court? And I get a resounding comment. The expectations are very high. And we will be working very hard to do everything we can to be here for this county, Cameron County. And whether I'm there for a year and a half or I'm there for 10 years, it doesn't matter. We're going to do things right. We're going to do things fair. It's not going to matter who you are or what you have. We're going to be impartial. We're going to be effective. We're going to be efficient. One of the things I did, I'm kind of old school, and you can see my gray hairs. I have Facebook, but I don't really. Maybe I put a fishing picture on there once in a while. Anyway, my court will be about avoiding any appearance of impropriety. And what I did on Facebook, I told all the lawyers that all of a sudden I have some new friends that want to be on my Facebook. I told all the lawyers to avoid any appearance of impropriety, taking it off my Facebook. I actually thought about shutting down my Facebook because in some respects, I must separate myself from the lawyers that do business because I'm not there necessarily for them. I'm there for the public. So we're going to be working very hard. We've made the rounds. Mayor, where's the mayor of Puerto Vallarta? He can tell you, I got in over there, did the same thing over there this week. I've been to Laguna Vista. I've made 1,000 phone calls. I forget who I've called, but the message is the same. I'm here for you, not for me. And as if there's anything we can do to make that court a beacon of some sort for positive change in our community, then I'm all for it. And I just came by. I've visited all, finally, this morning. I got the last one. I caught David Garza this morning. I've met with them, and I just want to thank you for your time. God bless you.
Thank you, Judge, and your cell phone number will be posted on our website for total accessibility, all right? Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Anybody failed to register that wishes to make public comment now? Consent. Any items under consent anybody wish to take out and discuss separately?
Judge, item 2C, can we do it later on in the meeting when she arrives?
All right. Well, we can go ahead and approve it, no?
Oh, and then present it? Okay. All right. Item 2T, table.
Double T.
And item 2W, the dates ought to be April 23rd and 24th. And then quadruple B, the dates are October 15 and 16.
Quadruple B? Quadruple
Yes.
B?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd like to pull double S.
just to give the court a little update on that.
Okay, anything else? Do I hear a motion to approve consent with the changes as outlined by the county administrator and pulling out item S for discussion? And tabling, well, already did that. I'll move by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second? Second. By Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. S. A few folks traveling to attend the 31st Texas Aviation Conference. Commissioner?
Judge, I just wanted to make sure and inform the court, because I know that it's more than the number of folks that usually travel on this issue, but I placed before each one of you a packet that was introduced and sent to TxDOT. I have nominated the Cameron County Airport to be the most improved airport of the year. If you look at your packet, you will see where we were and where we are today. The folks that are going to be traveling have been very instrumental in making these improvements occur. Also, as a result of the particular dates of this conference, there's been a meeting set up with GLO for doing or hopefully being able to get some KEPRA funds. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, we approved a contract with Coastal Harbor Engineering. We anticipate having a shovel-ready project. So being in Austin that week will allow us to meet with GLO and hopefully get some monies for finishing the retaining wall at Tomei Park. Also, as a result of that same trip, we have a meeting with Texas Parks and Wildlife where we are trying to include a nature trail at that park and have it funded. So, and culminating this visit will hopefully be Cameron County will be the recipient of a yearly award that is given to one airport in the state of Texas. David Garcia will be joining us because we have some meetings set up that will include some discussions with some of the potential opportunities that exist for the airport in the near future, which I will tell this court that are progressing very favorably. So that is the reason why those folks are going. If you have any questions on any of this material, open for questions.
You made a comment to me that you all are traveling the same vehicle,
Yeah,
going
one
up the
vehicle,
same, okay.
2 tanks of gas,
Got it.
Traveling together, all the things that normally we do when we travel as a group for the county. No,
Got it.
everybody doesn't have individual.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. On items for discussion, I'd like to take a couple of items out of order. One that's related to Judge Garcia being here. Item 3G, discussion and possible action regarding the Cameron County's legislative agenda for the 83rd legislature. Who's going to talk about the items that we're bringing up? Is it Arnold, David, Pete, or all of the above?
Arnold is operating with not much sleep, I think, right?
I'm doing all right.
I think a lot of us are. Let's go to the family law bill first.
Okay.
Because that's the one that, there's some new information that's been conveyed, to some members of the court already. And we didn't get direction from the court as to what we're going to tell our legislative representatives.
Okay.
So, Judge, would you like to just go ahead and just give us a brief as to where you are today or what happened in your Board of Judges meetings regarding the 357? Well, first of all, at the couple of commissioners' court meetings, we kind of discussed making that 357th a parallel court in terms of the way the 444th was structured. And we were, at that time, we decided, or we talked about, I think Judge Nelson was here at the time, wasn't he? And we talked about that he would be willing to get with the district clerk and saying, hey, all family law cases be assigned to the 357th and the 444th. That way the other district judges would not see any more family law cases. Now, that was the consensus at the time. We really didn't take an official position in terms of conveying that over to Austin, but something has changed since then as
Yes.
far as the feelings of the district judges.
Yes.
And just keep in mind that We, as a Commissioners Court, did not initiate those discussions about converting that. That came from the other building, okay?
I understand that.
Just so we know, okay.
I understand that, and I'm going to be as brief as I can. I want the public to know, for what it's worth, that when I applied for this position, the position had not been identified as a family law court. The court, by statute, is a court of general jurisdiction. That means they hear everything, everything. After I applied, a bill was filed through no one's fault. I'm not blaming any fault at all to anybody. The bill was filed to make it a family law court, and I know that Commissioner Sanchez's brother is inundated with family law cases, and I think he's handling somewhere to the tune of about 60% of the cases. I don't quite understand it. The other judges are handling, as I understand it, 7% of the caseload. Anyway, I was asked to express my feelings about changing it to a family law court. And frankly, I had some serious concerns. My concern was, how did it end up being the 357th court and not some other court? Why isn't it another court? What was the process? The other concern that I had is it's really not something that, and I don't have any problem with family law cases, but it really wasn't something that I signed up for. So I expressed my opinion at the judges' meeting, and I offered to take on, under a gentleman's agreement, more family law cases than all the other judges except the Commissioner's brother, David Sanchez, who has many. I said, I'll do twice as many on a gentleman's agreement, but I don't think that it should be legislation. I'm not sure who was there to fight for that court while it was vacant. So I don't know if it was fair. There's really not anyone to blame. There's a need that may or may not be a need that needs to be addressed. I don't know how fully it's been discussed. I'm brand new. That was my first meeting. You want us to change your court? So I am not here. What happens with that bill? You were asked to do this. You've done your duty as public servants. I'm not here to say, I can't change it. I'm a public servant. So whatever ends up happening is what ends up happening. But if anybody asks me, and that is this situation, if you ask me what my opinion is, I'll share it. I am now the advocate for justice in that court. And as you can tell, I'm not too shy about doing that. So that's where we are. Where it goes from here, I have been instructed to express those opinions to our legislators, which I have done. It's just my opinion.
All right, well, that's where we're at. So, you're right, it was unilaterally picked because it was vacant, and there was some discussion. What I don't understand now, and I told you I was going to say this, was that what changed from, other than we have now a designated person, but what changed over there where we're being asked to change it because of all this now, well, King's X. So, you know, like as a court, I'll speak for me. I respected what those district judges wanted to do. I'm not a lawyer, I don't practice over there, so I don't know. But now it's changed and they're pretty much punting back to you. But if you don't want it, and what I'm hearing is that the rest of the district judges are kind of telling you like, hey, it's kind of your call now, then I'm going to respect that as well, and we will initiate whatever we need to do to stop it, I guess, from moving forward, if we can do that. I think we can, or we block it upstream. But I think that if that's a consensus that we would like to pursue, then that's what we do. Now, there can be a gentle person's agreement amongst maybe the Board of Judges where they ask the district clerk to assign family law court cases only to the 444th and the 357th. That was discussed as well and would not require legislation. That would be an internal act amongst the district clerk and the district judges. But again, you have, rotating benches or whatever, and there may be a change of thought. I guess you all cross that bridge when you get to it. So when you said 7%, I would assume it was 7% each.
Here's my understanding, Commissioner Sanchez can clarify. And here was the general understanding. David Sanchez's court is designated, almost all the courts have some kind of preference except mine. Mine's general, mine's everything. Judge Sanchez's court, it has a preference to family law cases. Judge Migdalia Lopez's court has a preference to criminal law cases. My understanding is the general intent was for Judge Sanchez to take on 50% of whatever was coming out. And I have to confess to you, this is my first meeting, and I'm not sure that I understood it completely, but it was my understanding that he was supposed to assume 50% of the family law caseload, and the remaining judges were to split up the rest, 7%. I said right off the bat, I said we need to communicate about this. What is the need that I can help? I'm the new guy. I'm happy to help. If you want to give me your worst cases, give them to me. I don't care. We need more communication. I'm not sure that there's been enough communication, but I'm here to help. I'm here to serve the community. And if I've misstated anything, I hope Commissioner Sanchez will clarify anything that I've misstated.
Sure. I think there was a bit of confusion, too, among the judges on what they understood. Last Commissioner's Court meeting, we actually clarified it. Eric from the District Clerk's office was here. And the statute says that my brother's court is supposed to be more than 50% family law docket. So if he has 100 cases in a year that get assigned to his court, 51 of those cases should be family law. That's the only statutory requirement. And so what the judges had come up with was that if David had 51%, not 50% plus 1, but if David had 51% of the family law cases, that would leave 49% available. And that 49% divided among the 7 would give each of them 7% of the family law cases. In reality, David's docket, my brother's docket, is 60% of all family law cases. It's not 50% plus 1. So realistically, and I'm guessing here, but let's say total there was 100 family law cases filed in Cameron County, he would get 60 of them, and then 40 cases would get divided among the rest. It's not 51-49. So they're not even doing, I don't think, 7% each. And I think there was some confusion about that when they were discussing it, because I was there at that meeting as well. So the statute only requires 50% of the docket plus 1 case. In reality, the way they have it set up over there is 60% of all family law cases are going to his court. So he's really getting in his court probably about 80-some% of his docket is family law, not 50% plus 1.
Right. And something that the public may not know, if you get in a car wreck, eventually that case is going to settle, or there'll be a trial and there's some resolution. In family law, it's almost Commissioner Sanchez practice, it can be the never-ending case. You get divorced and the husband starts making more money and needs to pay more child support, so it goes on and on and on. So whatever Judge Sanchez is getting, it, I would imagine, tends to stay with him longer, and these cases on average take a little longer. And I am not saying here today to anyone that there is not a need. I have said that I have offered to help with that need. But I want to be in the loop, and I want to be a part of the communication, and I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. But I'll confess to you, my court, my future court, has not had a judge since the beginning of the year, day in and day out. And I suspect, and I don't know for a fact, that stuff is kind of backlogging there. So I'll have some significant challenges when I get there, and we're going to work to clear those challenges.
Well, let's do this, Judge. If there's no objection from the court, let's, Oscar or David, whomever wants to handle this, do you need to get with our legislative representative, tell them, hey, kill it, let's leave it the way it is. You all work amongst yourselves in terms of assignment, if that needs to be done, or just leave it the way it is. Leave it the status quo in terms of keeping it the way it is. And if the district judges would like to designate, as you suggested, either drawing straws or playing, a couple of hands of hold'em, let's go ahead and do that.
I'm willing to do
Okay,
that.
so that would be my recommendation to the court, to recommend to our legislative folks that are up there to, I don't know, whatever the process is, to pull it, kill it, shelf it, whatever it is.
Thank you.
Okay?
Well, I do want to make a comment, Judge. I appreciate you being here, Judge Designee
Thank you.
Garcia. I had a concern initially with this legislation because I didn't think it was fair that only because a court was vacant at the time that it be done with whatever, the Board of Judges wanted to do. Because there was no one there to defend the actions of that court. That court has been, in the past, a general jurisdiction court. It's handled family and it's handled everything else. With no one there, I felt that when we created the 444th, we created the legislation with the wording, and I believe it was more than 50%, if I recall correctly. I don't know if we designated like 50% only. It was more than 50% of that load would be family law. We were trying to make sure that we accommodated family law and allowed for that process to continue more smoothly if it was handled by one particular court mostly. But the fact that it was vacant, and with all due respect to the judges at the time when they asked that this occur, I felt strongly that we needed to respect the vacancy of the court. There's nobody there to defend what is going to happen there. That court was not a family court then, and I think that for some reason, and I don't know what that reason is, they want to push more family law into that court. I don't see how that benefits us in particular, or how that benefits the 357th.
I don't either, Commissioner, and I'm happy to find out and work with all concerned to find out what the need is and do my very best to help address that need.
Well, and I appreciate your efforts and your outreach in wanting to help in any way you can to take care of family law if you need to. But designating it, why do we want to designate it?
Okay, do we want to make, because we have some other issues regarding the probate court as well, so let me entertain a motion to ask our legislative liaisons to speak to whomever is carrying this bill up there, to do whatever they need to do to stop it or whatever it is. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garza. Any further discussion?
Let the Board of Judges work this out, okay?
Is there any way we can get something from the judges?
If I could address that for 1 second. I have been instructed, I talked to so many people about this, that right now, Judge Uresti, the local presiding judge, is preparing a letter for all the judges to sign that the consensus has been to basically.
Well, let's do that. And we can, but I would make the phone call and letting them know that a letter will be forthcoming.
Yeah, because it needs to, it's in the omnibus bill. And
Right. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. On that particular item, let's talk about Judge, thank you very much. You're welcome to go. Thank you. Probate court, real quick.
Yes, sir. On the probate court issue, last Commissioners Court, we approved to change the resolution support of the probate court to extend the date to January, or to October 2016, where we would appoint someone 2016, and then it would take, and then January 1, whoever got elected during that election cycle would take office. The issue with that is that it can't be an appointed position, it needs to be elected, so it can't be started till January 1, 2017. But in talking with the Senator's office and with the Representative's office, we would be, there's concern there of obligating future Commissioner courts to fund a court that's created now and it won't take effect 4 years till 4 years later. That was an issue that was raised, but I know we had some fiscal concerns regarding the creation of the court now. So just, I have a copy here of the resolution in support. This, all it is changing the date to 2017 as we wanted. The way it was presented last week, it got signed that way. So I just wanted to make sure we can make those changes, or if you wanted to keep it to where it takes effect in 2015.
Well, there's a couple of things. I believe it was, you were right, initially having it become effective January 1st, 2017, but not really appoint anybody. It was just, everybody runs, and whoever gets elected will begin serving that. The other issue, their issue as far as obligating future courts, we obligate future courts every time we sell bonds, and that are amortized over the extent of one other fiscal year. So I don't buy into that. But I think that the issue is fiscal, and I think that when we met with the state rep yesterday, he basically said whatever this court wanted to do, he would do. So our choice is: do we just can this bill now and have them reintroduce it at the next session to where it would become that way what they believe is an issue will be a non-issue. Secondly, that gives us the opportunity to really plan a place where they're going to go, build it out, and really plan for future funding. If we do that now, effective January 1st, 2015, then we are going to have to come up with a significant amount of money to begin the process, and it's about a penny on the tax rate. Just to figure that out based on what we were told a couple of meetings ago, or we leave it the way it is and plan for it that way, in terms of having it become effective January 1st, 2017.
Right. So I mean, you can.
So we can do whatever pretty much
right.
we'd like to do.
We just need to decide that today. The hearing is set for Wednesday of next week on the probate court bill. So whatever we decide, the way it gives us time to substitute.
Well, let me ask you a question. Could one of the existing county courts at law for now, until this bill takes effect, voluntarily decide, hey, I'm going to be the probate court, and then we come up with at the next budget cycle, come up with the monies that are necessary for them to operate as a probate court?
They already have the jurisdiction to handle probate matters.
But right now it's all being split up, right?
I'm sure they can decide that amongst themselves.
You know, because if the issue is that of legal and liability concerns, then we could they could work amongst themselves which one they would like to be probate, and we have the county clerk designate all probate matters to that court, but we got to give them the tools to do that, whatever they are, whether it's investigators,
Correct.
whether it's auditors, whatever it is. And that bite is going to be a little bit less than would be creating a whole new court.
I think creating the new court, the operating, the fiscal responsibility of the county would be around $600,000 a year.
It would be like a couple $100,000 more than what it is now, but at least we can bite that bullet now, and that's already in place if we need to for the 2017 court. Whatever your thoughts are.
Like I said, they can already do it if they want to, amongst themselves, they want to decide who does it.
We won't need that bill now then.
Yeah, we won't need that bill now.
And we can do it in 2017. Exactly what we're doing now, except we file it at the
we would
next
file it again
session.
the next session.
But commit to giving a
One,
particular court the resources.
that's correct.
To handle.
That's correct.
Whichever one steps up to the plate.
That's
what
correct.
you wanna do.
Yeah. And that way, we're only talking a $230,000 increase at the budget, not
The only thing is that
$600,000.
we may want to have them come address the court. I don't know what their docket looks like and how that would affect them, to see if that would be something that's.
You know, and that's why I said that they need to discuss amongst themselves. I mean, they either start, I mean, look, it's not difficult to transfer cases, as we've been informed, but they can assign cases, they can stop taking cases, they can just take probate, they need to work that on amongst themselves. I don't want to get situated again where you've got, you know, judges coming and say, well, we want this court to do this, and all of a sudden something happens, oh, yeah, you know, King's X, we don't want to do that anymore. So how do y'all want to proceed?
Well, what happens if none of them want to be the probate court?
Well, there's no romance in probate either, so.
Well, right, but they're doing it
No, you're
without
right.
the
I mean,
resources that,
But we're offering to give them resources
To do it.
to do it, you know.
Yeah, because I
No,
think the way
I know exactly what you're saying, because, you know, just like there's no romance
it's
in
like the
family
family
court,
law.
yeah, there's no
Nobody
romance in
wants to
probate
do it.
issues either. So that's an option, either that, or we're gonna bite the bullet and come up with $1 million to get this court going in 2015, plus another $600,000 to get the court operating. So we're looking potentially in the next 14, 18 months, $1.6 million added to our expenditures for where. The $1 million, though, let them be, in fairness, would be a one-shot deal, okay?
Well, but
still
the
needs to be
issue here
budgeted.
is that those cases are already being handled
Yeah.
between those courts.
Yeah, we're talking about
And
prospectively.
And the issue that has come before us was, at times, not having adequate resources
Right.
to be able to do the due diligence on the case and exposing legally someone.
Or you could have, could you have a rover? Could you have a rover auditor and a rover investigator to handle, you know, the three as they come up? I don't know, would that work, Commissioner?
I don't know to what extent.
Right, I'm not familiar with that either.
Maybe, Arnold, what you can do is look at other counties our size and see how they do it, the ones that don't have a probate court, and see what kind of administrative costs they run into, and if they have each court fully staffed, or if they share. And also, while you're at it, look to see how many county courts at law other counties our size have. I mean, because I know Hidalgo County has, I think, 8 or 9.
Yeah. I think a county our size, I already looked at that, a county our size should have a
Five?
minimum of 5.
So, I mean, we're already running at a deficit as it is, and if we were to designate of the 3, one of them a probate, I think it would inundate the other 2 with cases. Now, I know right now, there's also a statute that's being proposed that would give magistrates the ability to assist the courts on an assignment basis, case assignment basis. So that might help alleviate some of the work in those county courts at law. But I don't know if the statute, and they discussed it at the meeting, I don't know if the statute eventually is going to allow that they actually take a plea and sentence, or if it just allows them to take a plea and then the district judge or county court at law judge needs to sentence.
We have a bill currently, Representative Lucio has filed a bill currently giving the magistrates a little more jurisdiction, allowing them to take pleas and so forth. So I don't know necessarily how that bill would affect the docket in the county courts.
Well,
Or district
what happens is, if they're allowed to take a plea on a misdemeanor, most of those misdemeanor pleas are either going to be time served for people that have been in jail for 30 or so days, or it's going to be a probation on a misdemeanor. So it would be counterproductive, I think, to have a magistrate take a plea on a misdemeanor and then reset the case for another day for the sitting judge to do the punishment. But I don't know if there's a consensus over there where they'll say, okay, from the misdemeanor courts, the magistrate can take a plea and issue a sentence, but in the district courts, they'll take a plea, but the district court judge will have to sentence. I mean, I don't know how it's proceeding. If there's authority to take the plea and sentence, then the magistrates, I think, will be able to lighten the load of the county courts at law. But if they don't have the authority to sentence, then it's not really going to help much.
Right.
All right, well, let's get back to which way do you guys want to go? Do you want to keep the bill the way it's going 2017? Do you want to stop it? Or do you want to make it effective 1/1/15? What do y'all want to do?
If we're going to push it forward, I think we need to make it 1/1/15.
Okay, if we do that, then the funding source for the money, that's a key thing. What do we want to do? And where are we going to put them? And how are we going to pay for it?
Because the other thing to consider, if in fact we're running at 3 when we should be running at 5 courts, even creating that court, we're still behind the curve.
I didn't say anything.
So what?
No, I didn't say anything. I'm waiting, listening.
My concern is having to fund it before this, not only fund it, but house it and fund it. I think that we should, the schedule that I had agreed to was 1/1/17.
I think we all did.
And I think doing anything any sooner, I would commit to giving resources to the courts if needed to do their due diligence on the cases as we move on. But, I think I would be hard pressed to say that we'd be ready to go on the 15th. I
Well,
don't think we can do it.
I don't think there's any doubt that we're short on county court at law cases, courts. But the district judge is going to tell you the same thing, that they need more. And it just seems like we do. We're always a little bit shorter than other counties. Hidalgo County is more than twice our size, so it stands to reason they would have more courts. I agree. I don't think we can be ready and running by 1/1/15. So let me go back again. Do you want to keep it the way at 1/17, or do you want to have them pull the bill and then refile it? I don't disagree with committing the resources, but I think your point is good. I mean, which one, which county court at law is going to do it? That's why they've got to designate amongst themselves, saying, "Hey, I'm going to do it. Give me the extra personnel to do it." That would be a good temporary fix while this thing gets going.
Or you don't necessarily have to designate one court to do it.
Yeah, but we
Just
cannot.
designate the resources to the county
Yeah,
courts.
but
to do it.
if we can't come, we're not going to be able to come up with $600,000 to provide every single county court at law with those additional people that they need in order to be in, a probate court. I mean, you're talking now, $500,000 or $600,000 to do that, which would be the operational cost of a standalone probate court.
Yeah, but you could commit to piecemeal that.
You could commit to funding one.
Next year, 200, the following year, adding, if need to be added, add in some
Until
more
this
staff.
court gets in.
And then when the court gets set up on 1/1/17.
You transfer
You
it.
have that staff there already doing that work that would just move into the court.
Yeah, I think it's hard. We're behind, like you said, but at the same time, moving forward to 2017, it might give the court the opportunity to look at the other options and fill some of the other needs that we need to.
Well, why don't we do this, if y'all agree? Why don't we just keep moving forward with the January 1st, 2017 number or date? And if it dies up there because of some kind of jurisdictional issues, well, then it dies and we will refile it. And that way, it does give us some time to budget, to plan, and find a physical location for this new court.
Is it a probate only, the way the bill's written?
Yes.
Yes.
Because one idea might be to have it be probate but with general, so that, because I don't know if we look at the caseload, and let's say probate cases in Cameron County total, and this is just a made-up number, 100 cases, but total civil cases total 800. We're going to have a court that's just handling probate and nothing else. It may have a lot of free time. So maybe we can make it general jurisdiction to handle all probate matters and then some.
So kind of the way we were doing with the family court, we would give preference to probate matters.
Right. Well,
County court that would get, but still has the
specific,
general jurisdiction.
specific say all probate matters will be in that court, but the court would have jurisdiction to handle other matters.
Other matters.
How's the bill written now?
It creates a statutory probate court. That's the way the bill's written.
Is there enough work to continually keep a probate court?
According to the judges, when they came a couple of meetings ago, they said yes, that this would definitely
Keep them busy 100% of the time. I as one wouldn't want to do that. I think we agreed to keep it 100% probate. That's why the bill is filed. And I won't, I don't think that we need to be shifting out and changing it. I think they're going to be busy enough without doing that.
Let me ask a question. If we would, and I agree with Commissioner Sanchez, create this 1/1/15, are we required to fund it at that time?
yes.
We have
Yes,
no
because the
choice.
legislation requires you to, because you're putting there January 1, 2015, this court will be operational. So we're committed to the funds to make it operational.
At some point, we need to get what I would consider the true cost of running Cameron County, because we're always saying we can't, we don't have the money, it's never gonna happen. Well, at some point, we need to move forward. That's why our salary issues, our equipment issues, our building issues are way behind the 8 ball, because we never commit to saying we have to do this, new revenue sources, tax increases, whatever it is. At some point, we need to get real serious about talking about this stuff. And I look at Pete, because we've talked about this already. We can't grow if we don't expand our tax base or our revenue sources somehow. And we're not doing that. And that's kind of what this issue is. We're afraid to do this because we're not going to be ready, because nobody wants to take that step to say we have to do this. It's necessary. We're way behind other counties. We need to catch up on how we operate, how we pay our people, our facilities, everything in general. So I agree with Commissioner Sanchez. I have no problem going to January 17, but that's as far as I'll go. It needs to be done. We're way behind. The courts are swamped. If you go to the second floor of the courthouse, it's a zoo, pretty much all day long over there. And where your third floor won't be as busy in the district court, but the county courts of law are swamped with cases. So I do not know how many probate cases there are or not, but I certainly know we need another court, period. And we need it now.
The other thing I would say is look to see what kind of economic generator each court is, because in reality, the court could end up paying for itself. Majority, with the cases that are filed in misdemeanor court, they all end up probation cases and people paying fines. And so the economic impact with the creation of a new court might be paying for itself and then a profit, you know? Because I think the economic boosters in the courts are the justice of the peace courts and the county courts at law. The felony courts, you have fewer cases and more of those people go to prison, they're not paying fines.
And one of the other concerns I have too is that the way we're handling our probate matters now in Cameron County is not, I wouldn't say it's not illegal, but it's just not at the standard it needs to be, or in reference to all the way probate matters are handled in other counties and other county courts. So that's one of the issues that's why this bill was drafted, so that to address that particular issue. And I think funding one of the courts, some of that kind of helps that, because it does give them an auditor and some of the things they need in place to assure that we're doing everything legally and by the book. But eventually, I mean, creating a court is.
I don't totally agree that by the creation of a court, it's going to be an economic, an economic boon. I think that the pie is only so big. You're not going to have more probate matters simply because you have a probate court. There's going to be shifted. So the pie is only so big. So instead of coming in from 1, 2, and 3, it may come in from 4 only. So, but I think that look at the numbers. But I think right now we need to decide as a court: do we leave the bill the way it is in terms of making it effective January 1st, 2017? Is that what we want to do, or do we save it for the next session? Or do we move it up to 115, which I don't think it'd be a wise idea to do that.
The bill, the way it's currently drafted, is 115. There's a substitute out there to make it 117.
Well, that's the one that we need to decide. I mean, do we substitute it now or not?
Do we substitute it now or do we not?
And let me just add to what you said, Judge. Right now, each of the county courts has to designate one day to do probate matters. By getting that day off their calendar of probate, it opens up that day to handle more criminal cases and get those cases through the system. So it will increase
At the back
productivity.
end, it's not going to generate fees, but at the back end, what it's going to do is hopefully help our jail overcrowding, and in essence, that saves us some money on the back end. So one more time, what do we want to do? Do we want to have the substitute bill 117? That's what I would. That's
117.
That's what I would support. And if it was any other bill, then I won't support it. I can't support it. So you want to do 117?
I think I would.
Okay.
It'd be safer to
All right.
do that.
The consensus appears to be do the substitute bill and make sure, because the last time we had judicial bills go in, we kind of got nailed and had to fund 2 courts at the same time versus staggered. So make sure that we don't get
So out of the
happen.
omnibus building, we're gonna substitute to make it 2017, and then we're
Yes.
pulling the family court bill out.
Okay.
Because of that
Yes.
big bill.
Did we file the family court bill, or did the district judges?
Well, they filed it.
So can we pull it out if they filed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We're not gonna fund it, so that's.
Commissioner? Okay, so it's going to be 357th status quo. On this one, see if they'll go with the date of January 1st, 2017. And that gives us some time to schedule this budget and figure out physically where we're going to put them.
By doing this on 1/1/17, that means that that particular court would be an appointed court instead of a
No.
court?
No.
No,
You could,
you could have, you'd have an election March of 2016, a general November 2016,
Take
January
office
1st,
January
2017.
Can you do that, Bruce?
That's the only way.
That's the only way.
That's
it
the
can
only way.
happen.
That's the only way it can be.
That's the only
That's the
way?
only way it can do it.
And plus the appointment, I
You
mean,
couldn't. I know we discussed last time about appointing someone in October to start our fiscal year, and then they would sit there for a few months, and then January 1. But
well, remember,
that won't-
the bill makes it effective January 1st of 2017, so really
Right.
there's nothing,
So can you run for that particular court?
yes,
Or,
because the way the bill is written, it says that the position is created January 1, 2017, but
Following
the election,
election.
yeah, and it.
so we're good.
okay.
So
Let me,
I have-
let me,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
My question is, okay, if we move it to 2017, is this court still willing to give the tools to the courts to alleviate, like with an auditor and
Yes.
whatever else? that
I
they
think
need?
that's,
Commit to that.
that's part of the discussion, but they're gonna have to come up with an agreement amongst those three county courts at law as to which one's gonna do this.
What they need, or
Well, for one
They
court,
need-
'cause we cannot supply,
Right.
unless you do rovers.
each, you can do a rover auditor, rover accountant, whatever you need to do.
Why can't we create, like a separate department with whatever the
Well, that'd be the
court
rover.
needs?
That'd be the rover.
Whatever this particular court will need, we'll have those people in one office where, and all the judges will go to that office
Yeah,
for that
that's a rover.
information. For the meantime, that'll help us absorb the cost, and Pete needs to learn how to make bigger pies, so we can afford these things.
And that would be with the next budget
Yes.
That's, yes.
that we could start.
So that would be something that we need to work on now and
Right.
work on the numbers and get them to you.
Well, that,
all,
on
see how
that one,
that's
you
gonna-
get with our financial people and start working on those numbers and put it in there,
And with
okay?
the judges and
And with
find
the
out
judges
what
as
the
well.
actual need is to start off with,
Okay.
okay?
Let's do
I
that.
don't say start off with a full.
Okay, so what else? We got the family court issue taken care of, we got the probate court
Issue taken care of.
resolved, what else we got?
The bill you testified on yesterday, the veterans ad valorem tax, homestead exemption. We ended up substituting the bill that we originally had. And one of the main concerns is that we were mandating counties to make this increase. So the new bill that came out is just saying that the counties have the local option to adopt that tax exemption for veterans. Bear County, which is one of the ones that were mainly, they had some concerns. They have the largest population of veterans. They testified on the bill, and they couldn't testify in support of it, but when I talked to the gentleman from Bear County, he said he didn't have a problem with the bill the way it's drafted now. So the way that would work is there's an SJR that goes with it. If that SJR is passed,
You may want to explain what an SJR
it's a
is.
Senate joint resolution. It's just because we're amending the Constitution. So,
So it will be an election.
yes, it'll be an
There'll be an
election.
election,
Once that election
Right.
takes place, if it passes, then the enabling legislation, which is Senate Bill 1552, will take into effect and giving the counties the option to enter into that,
right.
to award veterans that exemption. So
Right.
that's where we're at with that.
Anything else?
I don't know if you have any other.
How about the solid waste? Did we ever get any final?
I don't think we've, I talked to Louis, I don't know if you talked to him, but I haven't seen a substitute yet.
Yeah, we don't have a substitute on that yet.
But
I
he's
talked
still
to him
working
last
on
night.
that one?
Yeah, he's still working
Okay.
on that. But
You know-
there's a bunch of other legislation that's coming up, and we're getting emails, we're getting calls to go up and testify or post positions from the county on different issues that are coming up. So we're trying to make sure we communicate with the court on what our position is if we haven't taken one yet, and also when we have to go up there to testify. I think these next few weeks, there's 7 more weeks in the legislative session, so, yeah, coming up, and so.
And there may be a special session too, so,
Yeah, there probably gonna be
That's-
one issue or a couple of issues.
yes.
The issue of scofflaw, David, are you gonna keep on top of that one about the,
Yes, sir. I was at that meeting on Tuesday, and that legislation in particular pertained to red light cameras.
yes?
And there was some cities that were there in support or against the bill. I talked to the tax assessor's office, our tax assessor, and he said that that bill would not impact his office. So,
As long as they don't make any changes in it, are you gonna follow it all the way through? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Just let me ask, guys, when we're talking about these legislative that's going on, sometimes most of the time, I don't know what these acronyms mean. So you may want to explain it for the people that are not only here, but also listening. When you refer to people that we know who you're referring to, but general public may not know Louis is the chief of staff of so-and-so, and just, you may want to just refer that so they know exactly who we're talking about. Sure. As you mention a bill by number, you may want to briefly, what it captions, because, there's a lot of numbers out there, and I, for one, get
And
get
things
lost.
are changing every day over there. Like David mentioned, we're going to have to, they're calling us on different bills. I know Commissioner Gatsa, he got called on that fireworks bill. I know, as things come up, we're asked to go up there and testify or to say one way or another how we feel. And that's going to increase a lot over the next 5 weeks.
Oh, you may want to talk about the venue tax bill.
That bill, we don't, I think.
Just to
David's
make sure
working
that everybody's on
that,
the
so-
same page, that we're going to withdraw that bill.
Well, the venue tax bill, speaking to Legislative Council, speaking to the Texas Municipal League, and speaking to TAC, we are in a position to be able to do that as long as we have an election, countywide election, to figure out what we're going to do as far as the venue is concerned.
So that legislation really wasn't required. It's already, gives us the ability to do
It
that.
gives us that ability.
Correct?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
So
Anything
then
else?
we're good with
We're
it,
good
as
with
long as
that.
we put it out for
For a
Yes.
vote?
for a vote.
And what happened with the firework bill?
I did not get back any notice from Representative Lucio's office.
We talked to the representative and met with urban counties, and I think they already worked something out. The way it works, they were asking our input. We already
do that.
We already do what the bill is asking counties to do. There's certain county, and the bill is addressed to certain counties, and we know that. But working out with them, and I think they already worked out an agreement and changed some of the language, so it's acceptable to the urban counties and to the stakeholders at hand. So it's not anything that.
So they worked it out?
Yeah, they worked it out, and
Because I was in Austin yesterday at the urban counties meeting, and that was a big concern.
yeah, it was a big concern because what it does is it's the way they look at it is it takes away a little bit of local control from the county judge and the commissioner's court. Right now, they can declare an emergency 24 hours without cause. I guess they can just do it. And when it comes to our drought conditions and fireworks and certain aerial fireworks, this bill requires them to follow a certain, depending on a score, the level of droughtness in that area is what they can do as far as declaring an emergency. So it kind of gives them guidelines. We already practice that here.
We do that. We use the index.
As a general practice. But other counties view it as, well, they're taking away our ability to declare an emergency when we see fit.
Well, and the other piece was a transport through the municipalities.
Yes.
Okay, where if you buy fireworks in Laguna Heights, going to the island, you're giving the municipality the ability to give you a fine and confiscate your merchandise by traveling either through Port Isabel, which is a municipality, or South Padre, when you're getting to the north end to shoot them off.
And that issue's okay.
It should be.
There's not an issue with that. Yeah, it's.
It's like, we can't regulate the transport of drugs, and they want us to regulate the transport of fireworks. But what was occurring.
Well, we can regulate them fairly well with law enforcement.
Well, what was occurring in a neighboring county to the north.
Yes.
Was that they would have the sheriff's
It was
department.
stopped right there.
At the fireworks stands, okay, looking and seeing who was buying and whether they were traveling into the municipality.
As soon as they hit the city limits,
And
they
then
would.
they confiscate and fine, which was like, you know,
And the fine's not cheap.
no,
It's
it was
not at
a
all.
very substantial
It's like
fine.
$500 to $1,000.
It'd be like fishing at the zoo, right? Where all the
Yes.
fish are always ready to eat.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, you can understand the issues that these
Just
folks
want to
have.
add real quick, on that particular bill, you know, we had the county coalition calling us, asking us to ask our representative to withdraw the bill and do other things, and we're like, wait a minute, we need to find out what's going on with the bill first before we do anything, before we request anything, so
Especially
not
when we
necessarily
have-
have to do what, you know, our state associations are asking us to do, but we did get with them, we found out what the bill was about, and, you know, they did what they needed to do, so.
On the Parks and Recreation bill, for example, as a result of the visits that were made 2 weeks ago, we had Mike Villarreal, Congressman Villarreal, introduce an amendment to the legislation to include the funding for those local grants for municipalities. Whether it passes through or not, we don't know, but at least we had that amendment come up that is supported by pretty much everyone in our legislation.
Anything else?
Judge, we were talking this morning a little bit about our beach bills. Did you report on that before? I came in?
No, I haven't yet. We have a bill that sets a line of vegetation. The GLO is looking at, I believe, there's a series of bills out there that they're taking a look at, and I'm supposed to be, I've been playing phone tag with Larry Lane at the GLO, trying to get, apparently we have his attention regarding our bill, and they want to work with us on something. So once we are able to get in contact, we'll be able to move forward and see what it is that we can do. But the way it's written right now, if I'm instructed, it's not being received favorably.
There's a big hammer waiting, in other words.
Yeah, there is, and but doesn't mean that we do have their attention. We'll be able to work on it and hopefully move forward on something positive. So, but we also have, I think, the judge and I met with Representative Lucio yesterday, and he's willing to also help us any way he can with the GLO or moving forward and see if it's something that we can work out.
On the LOV issue, Judge Commissioners, it's presently in front of
That's the line of vegetation issue.
The line of vegetation issue is currently in front of the Natural Resource Commission. My information is that of the 9 members, there's 6 very dedicated private property rights individuals, and which is good for us. But, I mean, this is a big issue. If the General Land Office perseveres in killing this legislation, it will basically kill beachfront development on South Padre Island. So it's imperative that the county do what it needs to do. If the RMA is looking at revenues for the bridge from that North Island to come to it, the county needs to get in back of this legislation 110%. I'm going to be up there next week. I've got a couple appointments to make, but we've got to push this. If Cameron County wants to see those revenues coming in to the county for the development of South Padre Island for the next 50 years. We cannot allow the General Land Office to snuff development up the north end of the island.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
There's a couple of those bills, everybody, that take an opposite view, or at least a contrary view to some extent, of that severance case that was protective of private property ownership rights in avulsion event cases, you know, where a storm comes in and moves the line of vegetation. And, you know, those would complicate our situation if they are passed. I think that's the 2 or 3 that, that Arnold was referring to, that the GLO is behind trying to, you know, get those done, and they come from, I think, one of the representatives from Galveston and one from Harris County.
Senator Elam.
Yeah, Island and I think Harold Dutton has the other one. I spoke to the governor's office about those bills too, and they have a certain opinion of those two, so that's, I'll leave it at that.
It's a difficult situation, especially where Park Road 100 is now located. What developable land there is between Park Road 100 and the water is very limited. And for these bills to just continually authorize, you know, a gradual eating away of private ownership rights out there is counterproductive in terms of generating the revenue, getting development there, getting the revenue generated to begin to defend that beach. If we're going to do that, then, whatever the commission wants to do. But if we're going to do that, those anti-severance bills, is what I'm calling them, are going to complicate that if they pass.
Okay, anything else? Just, are we clear on the, as Commissioner Hernandez brought up, do we have to take a vote? Do we need to take a vote on what we talked about on the probate court, or just do the substitute bill?
I think you did that last time, so.
Okay, we're okay? All right. Okay, is there anything else?
The only thing is I don't know if you need to do anything about establishing the funding for the,
No,
but I guess we can
no,
take that back up.
not yet. No, okay. Anything else, any other bill?
Judge, I think you need a resolution if you are going to take a position on that bill.
On which one, though? We
It's
already
actually-
have it.
The line of vegetation issue?
No, well, I was going back to the court here for a minute.
On
You
the
probably
establishment of
do
the
need-
probate
If
court?
you're going to have a resolution of some kind, then you'll need a motion and second, all that.
But I think we already did that.
Okay,
On the on effective
Right,
117,
effective 117.
right? I think we're good with that, okay.
Okay.
We would have had there been a change of heart up here, but, okay. All right, anything else on that one? Do you want to talk about the one right before, 3861?
That's the.
That the one we just
that's the
did?
probate.
Okay, got it, okay. Do I hear a motion then to acknowledge and proceed on the terms and conditions as we agreed to
So moved.
on items F and G, 3F and G?
Just keep us posted.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez, second by?
Second.
Commissioner Gatsa. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Pete, do you want to go to that one now, to the resolution proclamation? One of the items on the consent that,
We approve.
that we approved already, but,
C,
yeah, the
2C.
Doctora María Luisa Ramos Segura. Buenos días. ¿Cómo amaneció? As a proclamation honoring Doctora María Luisa Ramos Segura, and I'm going to give that to her now. I'm not going to try to read this because I'll blow it, but you couldn't make the font any smaller? Jesus Christ. Esta es una proclamación de los comisionados del condado de Cameron. Y es dando el honor a usted por estar aquí con nosotros. Nació usted en Ciudad Valles, San Luis Potosí. La doctora María Luisa Ramos Segura y su esposo, el doctor Fernando Torrazo Fernández, gobernador constitucional del estado de San Luis Potosí, dada su amplia experiencia en el sector salud. Esta presentación es de parte de los comisionados del condado y muchas felicidades y gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Y le voy a dar el micrófono si gusta hacer unas palabras. Ok, gracias. Gracias.
Muy buenos días. Muchas gracias por recibirnos. Gracias, Nat, porque lo hiciste posible. Agradezco también a todas las autoridades que hoy están aquí presentes a nombre del gobierno del estado de San Luis Potosí. Pues es un honor recibir algo como esto. Mi admiración, Nat, para todos ustedes y muchas gracias.
Gracias, doctora.
Judge, can we take two items out of order?
Which ones are they, sir?
3D and 3H.
3D.
Three D, consideration approval of an interlocal agreement between Cameron County and BISD.
Judge and Commissioners, we got BISD to identify the projects that they wanted. Our staff went and did the cost estimates for each of the projects. The total value of the buildings, $340,000. So we were not able to, or we're not going to be in a position to do all the projects that BISD requested. That information was relayed to their attorney. I don't believe that Deauville got word back from their attorney on which projects, then that they will select. So from our end, we're pretty much done, other than determining a funding source on where the funds are going to come from. We do have $100,000 left from the 2008 bond series that are available for use for this project. And so what I'd like to do is table the item, then have a workshop. I already sat down with Javier Villarreal, and we have a spreadsheet on the bond projects, the status of every project, and then balances that are available on the different projects that perhaps the court can consider reprogramming into other projects. So if the court
I moved to table this item and set up a workshop.
and maybe next week, late next week, Monday through Wednesday, it's not a good time because of the legislative session, but perhaps Thursday or Friday, we can have a workshop and go over the spreadsheet that we have.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Gatsa to table the item and followed by a subsequent workshop sometime the latter part of next week.
One question, though, before we vote. What was the total amount on the 3 projects that they identified was to the county? Do you remember?
The projects that BID, the 450,000,
Okay.
and the value of their buildings was 340.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, carries.
Item
Item
H, Judge, that one, pretty much the same thing. I wanted to.
Okay, let me read it because no one may know. Consideration approval to proceed with the construction of the courtroom at the Carizales Rucker Detention Center. Okay.
A couple of years ago, when we did the expansion at the Carizales Rucker, we had the plans to do the courtroom. Because of the budget, we had to eliminate that portion of the scope. So we wanted to revisit the item with the court, but again, perhaps we should wait till next week when we have the workshop and go over the status of every project and the balances that are available. And at that time, determine if there are sufficient funds to reprogram into this project.
Move to table.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Gatsa to table, moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
But we're going to discuss it next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Pete, at the time that we were considering it, how much was that addition going to cost?
We were talking about a 3,000 square foot and about 350,000. That's the price that we had at that time. This is a couple of years ago.
Construction costs have risen.
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let
Any
me
opposed, item carries.
make one comment, Pete, real quick. The attachment of that particular building that we hope to be able to do will be attached to the administration building of the sheriff's office or to the jail site?
Jail,
It'll be attached to the jail site?
yes.
Okay. The reason is, at some point very shortly in the future, we need to look at expanding the administration building for the sheriff's office. They're busting at the seams. They probably need 3,000 to 5,000 square feet right now. That's why I was going to ask you where.
Yeah, I visited with the sheriff earlier in the week, and the site will be at the same location that had been identified previously.
All right.
I'm going to take two items out of order. One will be the proclamation on the Red Cross Month. There's reps here from the Red Cross. And then right after that, I will take our independent audit. So let me start off with the recognition of Red Cross Month, presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of March 2013 as Red Cross Month in Cameron County. Who will we can't say enough about what the Red Cross has done, not only for Brownsville, Cameron County, South Texas, and the United States, and it's only appropriate that we again recognize the Red Cross for the initiatives. Where they come into play mostly, as we know, is during tragic events like hurricanes and disasters that we have here. They are the one entity that always jumps forward and doesn't wait to be asked. They're out there at the forefront with their volunteers, and I can't thank the volunteers enough, because they don't get paid for doing this, and it is a passion. I've met with them at least once that I can remember, not too long ago, and it just gives me great pleasure to be able to do this. It's a consideration adoption of a proclamation declaring the month March 2013 Red Cross Month in Cameron County. In 1943, President Roosevelt proclaimed the first Red Cross Month of support of Red Cross fundraising efforts to respond to the needs brought on by World War II, and since that time, every president designated March as Red Cross Month in the United States. Services and programs are made possible by the unique partnerships between those who give their time, our esteemed volunteers, and those that give a financial gift, our treasured donors. The South Texas chapter will continue the proud tradition and its mission to supply relief to victims of disaster and help people prevent, prepare for, and respond to emergencies. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the Cameron County Commissioners Court recognizes the month March 2013 as Red Cross Month, and it's signed by all the members of the court, including myself, Sofia Benavides, Precinct 1, Ernie Hernandez, Precinct 2, David Gaza, Precinct 3, Dan Sanchez, Precinct 4. Congratulations and thank you very much. And now I think you'd like to say something. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. You want to take a photo of something? Yes.
Commissioners, Judge, thank you so much for doing this for the American Red Cross. We are proud to be here. We've been here since 1917. With me, I've got Chris Delgado. She ran our Brownsville office and was here for 15 years before we moved her to Harlingen. So we're real proud to have Chris. She's our office coordinator, and I always say she's the one that runs the office. I am the executive director, Cynthia Guerra, but like I said, Chris is the boss there. I've also asked Rita Conde to come. Rita's been a volunteer for 20 years, and then her husband Beto Conde became involved because this is a family affair, and I believe he's been with us going on 10 years. So we could not do it without the help of our volunteers. And Doris is taking pictures for us, but she's one of our new volunteers, and we're just real pleased that we have over 300 volunteers. We have a partnership with the University of Texas Brownsville where we train students to prepare for sheltering and mass care and client casework, and that works real well because if a hurricane were to strike, we would have enough volunteers trained. And fortunately, because the American Red Cross is a national organization, we always have the backup from our friends throughout the nation to come and help us. So Judge, thank you so much for doing this. Commissioners, thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you, Ms. Guerra.
Thank you for all you do.
Would they like to say anything? Would they like to say anything, or are they just? Are you sure?
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, you got to go back to the podium, to the mic. And this will be aired next Thursday. If you want to stay up till midnight, you can watch us.
It's an honor. Thank you very much. It is after 20 years. I'm honored that you did this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conde.
Thank you so much for being. No, we're still.
Oh, I did a great job. As a matter of fact, they were telling me right now how professional we all are up here, and I said, well, when y'all were coming, I told everybody, be on your best behavior. Don't throw anybody things, but thank you. We're always like this, quite frankly, so. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Let's go to our audit report. Item 4A, presentation of Cameron County's comprehensive annual financial report, fiscal year 2012. Mr. Barrera with Long and Chilton. Marta, do the introductions.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. I trust everybody has had ample time to review our report from front to back, and it's provided very stimulating reading for everybody. At any rate, let me introduce Carlos Barrera with Long Chilton. Santos Alarcon is here with him as well, who handled the audit for Cameron County.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the commission.
Good morning.
So the next 2 hours, I'd like to go over,
Yeah, thank you.
You mean 4?
4 hours. Okay. At our audit committee meeting, when we tried to figure out what we were going to talk about, I looked over at the judge and I said, there's just so much information. What do you do? And there is. So let me just really condense it this morning for the sake of time. And let me just go directly to the government funds. And I want to switch over a little bit on how I used to present these things, but I'm just going to go ahead and I have you call your attention to go to page, if I can find it. Hold on a minute. If you go flip over to page 34.
Can I ask you a
and
question?
35, yes.
Before you even go there?
Yeah.
The replacement of page 3, was it just a typo on that percentage?
That is, yeah.
Okay.
It was not updated.
That was the only thing?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
It was, something
Okay,
that
go to
the
page 30,
auditor's
whatever.
office forgot to do. Anyway, if you go to page 34 and 35, I'm just going to concentrate on the governmental funds and specifically on the general fund because that's pretty much where all your efforts lie. And if you look on page 35, it kind of gives you the synopsis of what happened during the year. And again, all of this information is really detailed in the financial statements, but you can see your revenues at $69,993,000. This is on page 35 on the left column. And you had expenditures of $75,000, which caused an excess of expenses over revenues of about $5,300. But then, of course, you have your financing proceeds, as well as your capital lease financing and transfers. So at the end of the day, what happened is that your general fund increased in balance by $5,110,000. And so as a result, you'll see you started off with about 6.5 and you ended up with 11,662,000. And you can see that on the left side here on page 34 on that first column under general fund. There's your 11,662, and it's detailed between what the inventory, the non-spendable part of the fund balance, as well as the committed fund balance of about $1 million between two areas, and your unassigned of about $10,563,000. Now, that's important when you take into consideration where you were. And so if you flip all the way back to page 10, the page 10 is a summary and historical perspective of where you are on your fund balances. And right at the top where we talk about the operating fund balance, reserves, and working capital target, you'll see your general fund, and that $11,662,328, which I referred to earlier, is there for you to see. You can see the effect from fiscal year 11 and fiscal year 10. And what's important about all that, as we had discussed in the committee meeting, is the reserve days of operation. And those reserve days of operation are important because the county had set a target of 60 days in reserve. In other words, 60 days of operation reserve as its target to have as a fund balance. You are at now 57, which is close. In fact, it's the closest you've been in more than 5 years. And you can see fiscal year 11, 33, fiscal year 10, 25, fiscal year 09, which is not in your books, was 33 also, and fiscal year 08 was 41. So it's been at least 5 years. I don't have the numbers for 07 or 06, but I anticipate that it was in that area close to the 60 days. So again, the county managed its funds well, managed its revenues well, also managed its and expenditures as well. And there was well, let me flip over real quick. Again, I'm going to flip back to another page. If you look at the budget area, the budget area starts on page 92 and 93. I'm just going to look at 92, which is your general fund, and you can see that your revenues, if you look at that top area and you see total revenues, you can see your original budget, your adjusted budget, your final budget, and in effect your actual, and what your variance was. At the $2.9 million indicates that you had a favorable budget revenue variance of 2.9, meaning 2.9 more came in than you budgeted. By the same token,
Is that attributed to, I know it's under miscellaneous, but under that column, was there anything in particular that?
Yeah, it was the majority of that was the insurance settlement on that lawsuit. Yeah, it's
Okay.
about 2.6
or 2 point something?
2.3, somewhere around there. Yeah, right.
So it was not like extraordinary except for
Well, I
those
would say it would be
proceeds?
extraordinary.
It was not.
But for the
it
lawsuit,
was
we
not-
wouldn't have gotten that
Yeah.
money.
Yeah,
But for the lawsuit, you would have been right on target.
okay. Just wanted
Where
to
you,
make sure.
but on the flip side of that, your expenditures did better as well. And there is because of control, and as a result of that, you can see you anticipated original budget was 72, you went to 77, you ended up at 75, so you actually ended up $2 million to the betterment of that as well. So overall, that's about a $4.9 million difference when you add those two together to the betterment. Then, of course, you have these transfers in and out, but that's the $5.3 million in effect that you've increased your fund balance by. Now, this coming next year, obviously, that extraordinary item that we talked about is probably not going to be there, obviously, but the control issues on the expenses, I think that probably is. So in effect, you still have a fairly good comfort level, I think, from the standpoint of the Commissioner's Court to anticipate where you're going to be in those years. There's a little bit different with respect to this audit than last year with respect to the presentation of one particular area. And if you look on page 32, keep in mind we just talked about the general fund. There's also something called a government-wide projection or government-wide financial statement. And this gives you everything of the county. And the only thing I want to point out to you is that under the component units, you have one specific, which is the CCRMA now, is part of your financial statement presentation because you, in effect, is considered a component unit of the county. And of course, during the year, we finished the audit of the CCRMA as well. There was about $40 million that the county issued for them. In the footnotes of the financial statements and in the financial statements themselves, that $40 million is not contained as part of a county liability. It's contained as a RMA liability. And the reason for that is because RMA, in effect, has pledged its revenues and its resources, in effect, to pay it. And as a result, it's a contingency to the county itself, but not a liability, so it's not in your total debt for the county. That's really it on that. As a result of all of this, our opinion was clean. It was an unqualified opinion. We had no management error, no management letter this year.
It's the
which
first
was
time
unusual
that I
Yeah.
can remember.
As I said, what did I miss? But hopefully I didn't miss anything. But we did not have anything. We had a very, very clean opinion or clean work this year. It just seemed to be dragged on for a while because of RMA and what things were going on there and how the presentation was going to be. As far as the single audit side, which is further back, which is the compliance with federal and state grants, we have no findings to report. No question costs, no findings there either. So as a result of all that, I think you all did very well. We were very pleased with respect to the report. In addition to that, I think, I know last year we had a comment with respect, and you all had several comments with respect to our management report, and one of them was how are we doing with respect to the Treasurer's Office and the Auditor's Office with respect to the reconciliation of the accounts, et cetera. And at least I'm happy to report that you have two reconciliations going on, and the problems that we saw in years past where we had a lot of reconciling items that caused us a lot of concern are not there. In fact, every time we do have reconciling items, there's a few and far between, but there are some, but they're easily identified and easily resolved. And I think that's good, and it's a good checks and balances between both departments. So that's all I have to report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Barrera, for the report. And we did meet yesterday, and the treasurer was there, and I want to thank him publicly and his staff for working diligently with the auditor staff to making your job somewhat easier, and we just move forward. But thank you for the work that they've done in working with you and the auditor's office to resolve those issues. Any questions?
I'd also like to thank the auditor and treasurer for working together, and look what happens when we all get along and get things done. I mean, we're very ahead of the game, I think. So I think if we all keep working together, great things will continue to happen, Cameron County.
I have a concern when there's nothing that needs improvement, you know.
We need to get a new external
I've never
auditor.
experienced this before in 13 years that I've been here.
Well, it happens. It's happened at several times. I mean, you just, your sample sizes come clean, everything comes clean. I mean, it just happens. It could be next year, it could be a totally different story, whoever's auditing you, and it can happen.
I was just kidding.
And
No.
the judge knows that.
That can happen.
It can, yeah.
We don't have a whole lot of clients that get no management letter comments. I know that my firm does not. We have one or
Nor
two,
do I,
but
yeah.
and you might have a handful as well. So
Yeah, and when you do get them, you're kind of going, what
Especially
happened?
this size.
What did I miss?
Yeah, what did I miss? What happened? In fact, the Attorney General called yesterday because your CAFR went up to Austin, and I got a call and said, we'd like, was there a management letter? And I said, no, ma'am, there was not. And she goes, can you send me that in writing, please? And I said, I'll be more than glad to. So I did. And,
Does this mean our bond rating should go up?
not for the management letter, no. Unfortunately not.
Well, for
But
the
it
fund
can
balance-
go
For the
up
fund
because of our days of operations and the fund balance. That, when we do go out again, that is positive. So, I mean, we're lucky to be able to have maintained the bond ratings that we have, considering our revenue losses on the bridge side and the continuing, depressed economy, but we've been able to maintain some stability. So with that, I want to thank you. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to acknowledge report?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Sanchez. Discussion?
One question. On the pending dollars that are still pending from FEMA, are those into the general or are those in Road and Bridge, David? Road and Bridge? Okay, so that won't impact the general, okay.
Any further discussion? All those in, Santos, thank you very much for your hard work as well. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Claims, budget amendments, line item transfers under salary schedules.
Judge, Commissioners, you had the budget amendments placed in front of you. The first one is for Operation Stone Garden, and then the Hazard Mitigation Plan grant is approved in December of last year. Then you have the line item transfers. For the most part, as far as we could see, they are all basically operational. They're all budget neutral and not anything in particular significant, unless the court has any particular questions. You also have a salary schedule for the Title X Family Planning, which received an extension. And you have a budget salary schedule for the pretrial diversion. And also, that's the last one. That's all that we have.
Recommend
For your
approval?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides to approve item 3A. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Claims.
Payroll dated April the 12th for $1,634,763.71. Claims number 298570 through 298932. Claims number 298938 through 299067. And ACH health-related claims for $330,703.07 for your approval.
Do you recommend?
Yes.
Questions? Moved by Commissioner Benavides. Do I have a second by Commissioner Gatz? Any discussion? Please note my abstention on the affidavits I've provided. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 3, minutes. Are we ready?
Already.
Do I hear a motion to approve minutes of January the 18th, 25th, 31st, February 7th, 14th? 2 meetings. Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item E, discussion and possible action to adopt reasonable specifications relating to the construction of concrete sidewalks on all proposed subdivisions.
I'd like to
Judge,
thank, first of all, Mr. Hinojosa for bringing this item so quickly to us after the last discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Judge and Commissioners, in your packet of information, there is some criteria or specification and regulation for the possible adoption and requirements for installation of concrete sidewalks on proposed subdivisions, right-of-ways, and easements. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to take a lot of time, but basically covers all the criteria for installation, the inspection and maintenance and acceptance of concrete sidewalks. It's pretty straightforward. I'll take some questions, but this requirement will only be if the subdivision has 5 lots or less. Will not be affected by these requirements. I think Commissioner had expressed that smaller subdivisions will be exempt from this requirement. Or 5 lots or less.
Will be excluded.
Will be excluded or exempt from this requirement. This will be strictly for larger subdivisions. So, having said that, there's also an advanced copy of a resolution, and we will have a public hearing to adopt an order in regards to this proposed regulation specification. I would recommend that we proceed forward with the proposal and acceptance of the regulations, and then come back in 2 weeks with a public hearing and resolution order to adopt. Take questions if you have any.
I think this is a great idea. I was hoping that we can expand that very soon with the lighting.
Yes.
or something. Yeah, thank you, yeah.
And we're working on that, Commissioner. I think that's got something put together already.
Yes.
It's going to take, need to add a little bit more on specification and requirements, but the outline of installation of streetlights on subdivisions, I have a pretty good outline. I will forward copies to you in advance so you can look at them, maybe have a little workshop or something. It's a little bit more complicated, but I think it can be done. So we'll be coming back with that.
I think we need to look at that, and I think we need to look at also fire hydrants as a requirement. Most of us have been keeping up with our neighboring county, and they're already adding that requirement. Even if they don't have the pressure in the system, they need to be built into the subdivision so that whenever the utility comes in, they're ready to go, and then the utility needs to assume responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Or we need to stop funding some of their improvements, one or the other, you know.
And I think you'll have something like that to that effect. We'll bring it forward next time and we can discuss it.
Move to approve.
Second?
Could I ask a quick question, Judge? On these sidewalks, is this the first time we've ever done this?
Yes, sir.
And is it going to be on our right-of-way or on the landowner's right-of-way?
No, it'll be on our
landowner's
right-of-way.
land.
As a matter of fact, it's probably the best way to do it because we have control of the construction and also the maintenance of it and that sort of thing, so it won't be
We
neglected.
can't do it on private property. We have no right on
We
private.
can't regulate on their property that they have a sidewalk on their property and they maintain it?
Well, again, it becomes an issue as to who's going to operate and maintain once it's installed, and I think the county would be better equipped to do that than the private sector. We know that, you know, once you install the sidewalks, just like anything else, or roads, if you don't follow up on maintenance.
Are you going to have a warranty period on the
Yes, sir.
sidewalks?
It'll be a 1 year, and then it will be accepted along with the county road.
Right, because the county roads are also 1 year, correct?
Correct.
Is that a local option? Is that something that we did locally, or is that something that's required somewhere else?
As far as,
That we, I mean, who selected the year? Like a year we go back to look at the county road?
no, that's by law, we had to, I mean,
No, but is that something that we did, that we do locally, or does that come from the state statute?
no, that comes, state statute.
Okay, so it says,
Sidewalks, we're adding, we're adopting through a state statute that's, in general, that's already in the subdivision rules and regulations.
okay, but within, I guess what I'm trying to get at, within those statutes, does it specifically say that after 1 year, that we go back and revisit the road, after 1 year, we shall take this road into the county system, or is that something that's a local option?
I'm not sure. Alex, you're a little bit more familiar with, I'm not sure, Judge, how to answer that. I know we have had it implemented for, I mean, we had it in the.
Yeah, I know, but now that we're going into something new, concrete is, it's a lot more expensive to repair once it starts falling apart and cracking. So I just don't know if 1 year is sufficient to go back before we, take it away from the developer to go back and fix. That's my only issue. Do we want to make that a little bit longer warranty period versus going to the year? That's why I wanted to know what the state statute allows.
Well, we don't have any specific guidelines. I think it's up to the court based on our recommendation.
Well,
2 years?
That's what I was asking.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was asking.
We recommended
Is
1
there?
year, a minimum of 1 year.
Okay, so the state says a minimum of 1 year. We chose the 1 year. I would recommend that we take a little bit further.
Well,
if
I don't know if it's the state requirement. I'm saying we're recommending that.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I don't know if there's a statute really.
No, it's.
I don't know. That's a legal.
Well,
thing. I'm not sure.
Okay, can just check it out, because, I mean, that's what I was asking, if it was a state mandated warranty period, or is that something that we initiate locally?
Well, I don't think it's state mandated. I think this
That-
is something that the court approved,
Okay.
in my opinion.
All right,
I'm
well,
not sure.
check it out. That was my question. And we may want to consider going a little bit longer on that, just simply because concrete does tend to crack after,
Well, that's why we're going to monitor the installation, the quality of the
All right.
installation. The same thing with the roads. We monitor for 1 year. Quarterly, we go out there and check them out. If they're breaking up or something, we have that right to go and say to the contractor.
Just out of curiosity, when a road breaks out after 9 months, does the warranty period start over again?
Well, you have that.
You have a
window of
year.
time.
You have a
In that
year.
window of time, the court has to, or we recommend that we take action as far as requiring the contractor to come in and fix it within that 1 year.
Okay,
Once that year is gone,
My question is this: you start the warranty period at the 10th month. There's an issue with the road. The contractor goes back and fixes that area. Does the warranty period start again 1 more year, or
No.
does it end at the 12 months?
no, it ends at the end of.
You may want to look at that as well. I mean, now that we're here doing all this.
Sure.
I think that once, just like anything else, once that happens, then I believe that warranty period extends another
The
year.
number is pretty accepted standard, 1 year.
It's kind of
is
like
a-
the battery of my car, okay?
I understand.
3
I
years,
understand.
free replacement, but
Right.
it always messes up like
Yes,
3
sir,
years
right
and
at the
1
end
month
of
later.
We can change that if the court desires.
Well,
to do that.
I'm just suggesting that we go out there and, since we're doing all this, that we
Right.
revisit some of these
Okay.
rules that are pretty old.
Yes.
And just go back and revisit them and see,
Okay. Sure will.
that, okay?
I'll come back
But good
and-
job, thank you for
Sure
doing it.
will, sure will.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, item carries. I think that's all the action items, right?
This is a step in the right direction.
Presentations, we've already done a couple. Let's go to item 4B, presentation by Sprint on Geotab GPS Fleet Management System.
Judge, Commissioners, we've been looking at exploring the possibility of obtaining some GPS systems. Sprint has a product that they wanted to bring to the court and show and see if there was some interest from the court. in possibly doing this with Public Works or Sheriff's Department. I know the Health
Doesn't
Department.
the Sheriff's Department have already installed GPS on a lot of their patrol cars? I thought I saw somebody from the Sheriff's Office here. I thought haven't they already installed, I think, no? Okay, they've already installed that. I guess my question to Sprint is that I keep getting, happens to me, keep getting phone calls from people, from drop calls, issues with Sprint. They talked about maybe the towers were down, but they're being replaced, or where are we with that?
Yeah, I'll turn over the presentation.
Thank you.
Does this system use the same tower system as the phone system does?
I'm going to address that also, Commissioner.
Okay, so you know where it's going, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
I'm fully prepared. So,
Thank you for your bravery.
Can you tell me why inside of my house the signals? I'm just kidding, but it is.
Well, Commissioners, Judge Coscos, and guests, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. It's been a while since I've been back before the court. My name is Robert Hahn. I'm the Public Sector Account Manager for the South Texas market for Sprint Nextel. I'm here today with Mr. Rick Cantu, your Account Executive, and Justin Davis, our Senior Solutions Engineer. And we wanted to thank you, first of all, for your continued business. Cameron County's been a valued partner of Sprint for almost 14 years now. As you know, technology continually evolves. I mean, it seems like you can't buy a computer nowadays without it being outdated 6 months later, right? So one of the things that we're doing to immediately address your question, Commissioners and Judge Coscos, regarding our network, is we're actually in the process right now of doing a complete network overhaul. It's a project called Network Vision, multi-billion-dollar project happening coast to coast. In a nutshell, what we're doing is we are completely replacing all of the hardware, from the antennas to the power boosters to the rack gear at the bottom of the tower and the backhaul, with completely new state-of-the-art equipment. And this is actually happening right now in the Cameron County area, and we will be complete for the most part with that overhaul by the end of this year. That will include new, faster 4G data services for you with LTE, improved 3G services as well, and the core 2G services like your text messaging platform and machine-to-machine communications like this solution that we're here to talk about today will all be improved, as well as coverage gaps that'll get filled in, improved in-building coverage, and things of that nature. We're also retiring our legacy Nextel network. We'll be refarming those frequencies, the 800 megahertz frequencies, and redeploying those along with our other spectrum assets to give you guys the best-in-class network that you guys deserve. So the challenges that we've got here, Judge Coscos, regarding drop calls and things of that nature, they really have to do with two things. One, Sprint's done a really good job of taking care of our customers over the years, and we've got a lot of customers, and so there are some current capacity challenges from a voice and high-speed data perspective. That doesn't really have any bearing on this particular solution that we're going to talk about today, because we're talking about very small pieces of information. That said, the other thing that kind of kills us is, you know, the border traffic from Mexico, and it's very hard to keep up with. So the new network infrastructure that's being implemented is really being built to give Sprint what we need for the next 20 to 30 years from a technology perspective, and make us the #1 carrier in the United States.
So are you saying that you will be able to address the problems that, I mean, I have areas in southeast Brownsville, I mean, and that are close to the river, and you can't get any reception?
Absolutely. So areas along the river are of a particular challenge because you deal with geography, you know, things like foliage and trees, believe it or not, actually can impact the way cellular signal propagates. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is one of our largest customers nationwide. And, you know, they've used us for a very long time, just like you guys have. Also treaties with Mexico regarding frequencies and, you know, FCC issues also impact all of this. So the new network infrastructure, and I didn't come today prepared to give you guys the full dog and pony show with what we're doing with our network, but I'll be happy to come in on a future date and give you a complete presentation so you have an understanding of how all that's going to work and what it's going to look like, you know, here in Cameron County. But rest assured that all the gaps will get filled in, and it's a multi-prong approach. Just Google Sprint Network Vision and you can read all about it. It's really fascinating, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be working where I work. I've been with the company for 9 years, and what we're working on right now is really fantastic. And you guys are going to start seeing some incremental improvements over the summer and during the fall. And then next year, once the Nextel network is shut down over the summer, hopefully they'll be able to start layering in some of those 800 megahertz frequencies, and that will actually help a lot more with additional in-building penetration, capacity, and things of that nature.
You would think that if I was on the first floor, the reception would be good. I turned in a phone because on the first floor, I don't get calls. But if I come up to the second and third floor, I'm able to get them.
Right.
So I mean, to me, that's very frustrating. You know, you're trying to call somebody, or you're talking to someone, and the calls are dropped. And I've checked with other departments, and everybody's frustrated over this. So I do want to see that you're addressing this problem. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one. Judge has been talking about it for a long, long time.
Yeah, try getting the same text message 10 times.
Yeah, I live here.
So I'm thinking
too.
like, why are you doing this to me? I've already answered twice, you know, I mean, so and I don't think that is unique to Sprint. I think it's happening with other, it's gotten a little bit better over the last couple of weeks, but nonetheless, I mean, I've been with Sprint for a long, long time as well, but
in our building in San Benito, you know, you see people outside the building because they can't get access inside the building.
Sure.
And I thought you did that so that they'd be more productive, Commissioner.
No, I mean, you can't hear.
Well, that's that's kind of the big transition that you've seen from the way that we communicate as people now. I don't know about you guys. I don't have a landline in my house anymore. Most people that work in offices, they have a desk phone, but they tend to use their landline to make and take calls unless they're going to be on a conference call for 2 or 3 hours, right? So no wireless carrier can guarantee you in-building coverage because we can't control how you build your buildings. We can't control the foliage. If you erect a water tower that's between our tower and your building, that can deflect the signal and filter it down. We have a hospital in Corpus Christi. They put on new hurricane shutters, and that turned off the cell phone signal inside the building. It filtered it down, and so we're having to look at implementing specialized in-building solutions. So we have fixes and remedies for things of that nature. We have home small cells called eFemtocells, little routers that you can plug in at your house that can give you an island of coverage within your home, and we can certainly look at supplying to some those for some of you or some of your staff that are particularly challenged right now. For larger buildings like here at Dancy or anywhere else that you may have, I believe we've implemented repeater systems for y'all in the past. We actually are doing things a little bit different now from a technology perspective, but we do have other in-building solutions available as well. So if your building's built like a bunker, you're probably not going to get a TV signal, a radio signal, or a wireless signal in there, but we do have solutions that we can implement that can help close that gap and give you the service that you need. Does that make sense?
And as it pertains to this GPS system, are you telling me that if we were to implement that very soon, and one of our automobiles is going out to where I can't receive phone calls, are we going to be able to track them?
Yes, absolutely. So basically the way this works, and I'll get into the presentation here in a second and show you a little bit more, but this actually transmits very small packets of data over the 2G data portion of our network. So it works anywhere you've got Sprint bars. Even if you only got one bar, it's still going to work and transmit that data back, because we're talking very, very, very small packets of data, less than or equal to about the size of a text message.
Question, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And I've noticed sometimes on the phone I can't get a good signal to talk, but I can send a text.
Right.
It's a different signal being
Same
used?
theory applies. So if
Okay.
you think about Hurricane Katrina, when New Orleans got leveled by Katrina, right? Text messaging was one of the only things that worked because you didn't have to maintain a constant connection. That's the same situation here. You're going to get updates every 30 seconds, or unless an event happens, and then basically the device, which with the permission of the court, will bring up a device to show you guys, and you guys can pass it around and check it out. But it's the Go 6 here. So with your permission, I'll get into the presentation and go over this.
Thank you.
So on our agenda today, I've really outlined answering 3 questions for you. 1, what is Geotab? 2, how does Geotab work? 3, how will it reduce overhead costs for Cameron County? And then we'd also like to discuss a special offer that we've put together for Cameron County. Like I said, we've got a long-term partnership with the county, and part of that partnership is routinely meeting with your department heads to talk about county operations and identify ways we can help you guys either make things work better, smoother, eliminate redundant processes, or reduce costs for the county, which allow you to be better stewards of taxpayer dollars. So Geotab is the world's only expandable plug-and-play vehicle telematics solution. In the past, you guys have probably looked at similar products where you had to install a black box modem in a vehicle. Those are very expensive. There's installation that you've got to look at, and various other things to consider. This new device, you guys have probably seen those Progressive Auto commercials on TV where Flo's talking about this thing you can plug in and it checks your driver behavior and it can lower your insurance rates. That's the same concept here. This plugs into the OBD2 diagnostic port on light and medium duty vehicles, and it allows you to view web-based software, so there's no burden on the county IT department to install any software or do any maintenance or anything like that. It's all in the cloud, they call it. It's all out there in a secure website, which is password protected, and it gives you guys real-time alerts. This is very important for vehicle engine health. If there's an issue with the vehicle, the system will alert the fleet maintenance person or the appropriate supervisor that the check engine light just came on, or they've been idling for a really long time and using a lot of gas, or other things that you guys may want to monitor. It does read and report back the engine diagnostics. It also is a breakthrough accident detection notification system. It's got a built-in accelerometer, so if a vehicle comes to a sudden stop and a halt, it can actually send an alert back to the appropriate people and let you know what's going on with your fleet. In addition, there is intelligent audible vehicle driver coaching. So let's say you set up a speed parameter, it'll actually detect real speed versus posted, and if you exceed the speed limit, you can turn the feature on the device, which it'll start beeping. So they know that they're doing something, maybe they accelerated too fast or they're speeding or something like that. So it really improves driver safety and makes you aware. I've had this in my own vehicle. I'm not a saint either, believe me. I've been amazed with what I've seen with my own driving and how it's improved. It's just amazing what you see when you really can measure something and get some reporting on it.
Can that be turned off manually?
No, it can't. It's enabled from inside the software, so you log in through a web
Or
portal.
unplugged?
It can be unplugged, but the way that it's installed is it comes with an extension cable, and so typically what customers do is they mount this up under the dash where it's not easily accessible by the average person, and the system will also notify you if it has been disabled. It shows the VIN number of the vehicle that it's running in and that type of thing. So it's a pretty foolproof solution all the way around. Basically how it works, if you can see the presentation here, is this communicates through our 2G data network. It transmits latitude and longitude and any engine information that's necessary to the Geotab website that you guys can log in and access from any internet-enabled device, computer, smartphone, tablet, what have you. And if you happen to go through an area, I know there's a lot of rural areas here in South Texas. If you happen to drive through an area that doesn't have any coverage at all, this actually has a store and forward feature, so it'll still collect the data and store it. And the moment you get even a little bit of signal, it'll transmit that data and fill in those gaps again, for you as well.
What sort of data is it storing? Just your driving?
It stores the GPS time and date, latitude and longitude, where you were at, and if there is anything that it needs to report as far as engine diagnostics, speed, mileage, anything of that nature, it'll store all of that on the device temporarily, and then it uploads it once it has signal again.
So regardless of how big the gap is, it'll be able to
Correct.
say, I went down this road instead of going around and
Yes.
ending up at the same place?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do they have perimeter sensors?
I'm sorry?
A perimeter sensor?
In other words,
Oh, yeah, are you talking about wanting to be able to see if they enter or leave a certain area?
Yeah, how many times they go back to the yard a day? In other
Yes,
words-
absolutely, yeah. It has that's called geofencing.
Yeah.
So you can draw an imaginary boundary around any particular area, and you can
how many
receive
times they go home?
notifications when they enter or exit.
whenever
Absolutely.
they leave the county without
Yeah,
permission?
yeah, you can do the county, you can do, if you're worried that folks are going to Denny's during the middle of the day or something like that, you can geofence the Denny's if you want.
Okay.
So as far as how do you pay for it, that's really the big thing that everybody asks about these types of solutions.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do a demonstration project or something.
Oh, I'm sorry?
I thought you were doing a demonstration project for the county,
With 400 units?
like 400 units to demonstrate to us.
Oh,
To show
yeah,
us-
you know-
To
yeah.
show us how valuable it would be and,
Right, yeah, absolutely. We're going to get to that here in a second. So this solution pays for itself. If you think about just from a fuel cost perspective, when you implement a fleet management solution like Geotab, you're going to save at least a gallon of gas per vehicle per day. The system costs $33 a month per vehicle, about $1.10 a day. Gas is almost $4 a gallon. You do the math. You save 1 gallon of gas, it pays for itself 3 to 4 times over. Not to mention reducing vehicle maintenance, engine wear and tear, reduction in idling, improved employee safety, and a myriad of other things that are measurable that the court will be able to say in 6 months, where are we at on our fleet management project, show us how much we spent, Q3 or Q2 of 2012 versus Q2 of 2013. And that type of thing. So I'll let you guys take a look at this here, but the improvement in driver skills and safety, being able to get to places on time, make sure you're also monitoring the behavior and your expectations with your drivers as far as reduction in unauthorized or inappropriate personal use of company assets. I know there's a lot of scrutiny on the RGV right now for, what are folks doing, with their vehicles, right?
Sure.
So as far as the project for Cameron County,
This is a unit?
that's the unit right there. That's Rick's from his car, and this is mine from mine. The Geotab Go 6 device is $169 each. The service, like I said, is $33 a month, or about $1.10 a day per vehicle. It is a sprint build, fully competed solution available with your HGAC contract. There's no cost for installation since it's a plug-and-play solution, no shipping or activation costs. Your standard 2-year term with no ETF fees, just like any phones that you purchase from us today. And we actually had a special offer at the end of Q1 that we were able to appeal to our VP and get approved for Cameron County, because we know we've got to talk with the court and work through all this stuff. So if you guys want to do a pilot program or do the whole fleet, 50 plus units, we can do free equipment. 25 through 49, we can give you a significant discount and go $99.99 each, or 10 through 24, $129.99 each. And that is a valid offer that is valid until the end of April of 2013. After April 30th of this month, then there would be the regular government flat rate price of $169.99.
Can you go back to the other financial page?
Sure.
Just explain to me, no, the other one. The one where you had the rates.
That one.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Tell me again, 50 units you said would, the equipment would be free, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So,
But we get charged $33 a month.
A month per vehicle,
Per unit,
yeah.
so that's $16.50 a month, correct?
yeah, if you wanted to do 50 of them.
Yeah, I want to do 50 of them. But
Right.
if we do less than 50, we got to pay for the equipment, right?
You're still going to get a discount,
A little bit?
Judge? Yeah.
Well,
you get
but the fixed cost is going to be $33
Correct.
a month
31.
per unit.
Yes.
Correct.
And the reason why we structured it this way for you is because, A, we realize that with a fleet of your size, you've got almost 500 vehicles in your fleet. At $169 per modem, you may or may not have the funding to be able to implement this right away. If you guys wanted to implement something like this right away, we really wanted to try to make it easy for you and enable you guys to get an immediate return on investment. So you're good. So either way, even if you paid full price for this equipment, it's still going to pay for itself in 2 to 3 months.
Well, let's talk about that. Now go to the previous page where you've got the savings. The way, and Martha, jump in when you want to. The way it always sounds really good when you take a 6-year-old study and apply all these savings at fuel costs, et cetera. I imagine that would be some kind of an average savings for people that implemented this.
Correct.
Okay. And then we've already adopted a budget for fuel, labor, repairs and maintenance, whatever it is. That's already there. Right now, even though it sounds good that this is what we're going to save, there's really no way for us to budget that or quantify that.
Right.
Okay? So initially, we're going to be out of pocket minimum, if it's 50 items, 1650 a month, 19.8 per year, just for 50.
Sure.
Correct? So, A, how are we going to budget that? Because I don't know, or I don't believe, unless the auditor's ready to do this, make a budget amendment using those percentages, saying, okay, our fuel cost is $100, we're going to reduce that by $13.20. And she's going to make a budget amendment for that to reduce it in order to recognize these savings.
Right.
So how do we budget that? Because it's not a budgeted item unless she's willing to, let's say, operating costs of 10.4%. So she's going to make a budget amendment of $350,000 as an example, because, hey, we're going to save all this money, so we're going to make a budget amendment because this is what's being represented to us. So how would we pay for this and make it budget neutral, Martha?
The laugh. That,
well, I know
trouble.
the answer, but
Very good.
But I want to hear it from her.
I would think that in view of the information that's been presented, that maybe the court address this as trying it out with a pilot program and use it on 50 vehicles. And that way we can document the history of what those 50 vehicles have been in the prior, 60 days, 90 days. And then we'll see what the difference is in the pilot program period. And then we can.
And then what
that will help us for the next
But still, the
budget
challenge
year.
is going to be, how are we going to pay $33 a month for 50 vehicles?
Well, the only thing you have right now that the court could entertain would be lap salaries.
Exactly.
Contingency, that's it.
Okay.
Well,
But that would keep it budget neutral, and if it does produce the savings that are projected here, then.
I think that we need to look at it, at least potentially explore this. And I'll say I visited with a friend of mine that has a fleet company that utilizes this particular technology. And he was sharing with me the other day when he had to terminate an employee because he delivered an 18-wheeler load of limestone to a place on the island when he was supposed to go somewhere else, okay? And he had, like a map overlaying where he traveled to, where he delivered, what he did, all these things, and it was able to very succinctly say, look, this is where you were, this is what you were delivering, and I can't use you in my company anymore because you're delivering inventory product to the wrong location, and it eventually being found out that he was selling product on a daily basis to a private individual out somewhere else, And if you make, 10 trips a day and you divert one, it becomes quite lucrative for the individual. So I think there's a place for it, we've had allegations of things of that sort occurring in the county. I think that we should look at potentially putting this unit, I would start with maybe Public Works,
I think it's a good idea.
You
I'm
know?
just trying to figure out how we're going to pay for it without impacting, and what you're saying is go to that, but.
I bet the question is, how do you quantify it, though? In other words,
Right.
if we put 50 units, are we going to put in 50 units and have 50 other like-kind units and track the spending, or,
Well, We would know, I mean, we have the history of what these particular
unit
50
number.
vehicles have historically used in the
So you
current year.
would test them against themselves?
Yes,
compare-
we-
Okay.
and see, is there an improvement or not? And if there isn't, then why?
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Han? Han, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
When you deal with county government, we can only spend what we have budgeted. We don't have money budgeted. But in the interest of you selling this to us, would you consider giving us a 60-day free trial period so that we could use the data and then the auditor could say, well, you know what, over the last 60 days, or 90 days, it shows that we have saved X amount of dollars, which I can then certify that by implementing these, the county's going to save money and it'll pay for itself.
We can deploy some demo units with you at no cost to the county, but it won't be on that scale. That's the challenge that I've got, is I've got a very small amount of actual demo units.
How many could you do?
5, max.
Would that be enough, Martha, for you to make a certification of savings, or would you need a larger sample?
But I think the best option would be for the court to, I mean, 5 would be good. I don't know that I would, that would give us the information that we need. I think that a better system would probably be the pilot program, and that way we could get at least a range of 50 that we would have that we could work with.
For different departments?
If we could identify that particular savings within 50 vehicles, be it in the Sheriff's Department or in Public Works, which have the Sheriff's Department, they have the largest volume of vehicles, then that would be, that would be significant.
Maybe we should approach the sheriff and see if he would be interested in, doing half of the 50 in Public Works, the other half, and seeing how that could benefit their department. I mean,
Right.
does this give you real time? I mean, like the program I saw, you can pull up a screen and it gives you real time as to where your location of the vehicles are at.
You just punch in the number?
So it's near real time. There's no solution out there aside from maybe like military grade hardware that'll give you a true real time. So I want to make sure we set the proper expectations with what we're discussing. But yeah, you can log in and you can say where's a vehicle at, but there's going to be maybe it might be where they were at 30 seconds ago.
Well, what I say real time is like, when I logged onto that screen, it showed the vehicle traveling down, the expressway going 80 miles an hour.
Right, and this is going to show you that type of information.
But 30 seconds after it actually was in that spot?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah,
Okay.
because you got to think about it. It's got to transmit the data from the modem
All the
through
way to
internet,
space.
all the way to space, wherever it goes through, and then come back to you. Yeah, exactly.
Well, even if we paid for 50, okay, and if we talked about 90 days, if we do 50 items for 90 days, that's $5,000 that we could invest. Now, what would make it affordable would be, hey, you throw in these units for 90 days, and all we pay is the monthly monitoring. Then we can quantify based on 90 days using 50 units, and we can find $5,000. I mean, because it's only going to be for 90 days. Then if it is something
Pete's left pocket.
Yeah, then if it is something that we can utilize, then you got a couple of things. One, the question will be, okay, once we do that, do we have to bid this out? Or is this a sole source item, okay?
Mr. Hoskins, I think, has something to add.
Chucky? Now, the sheriff's office already has units that do exactly this. They monitor, and I don't know what else they're doing, but they actually can see their units live on a wide screen. That they can pinpoint each unit, where it's at, where it goes. But I was under the impression he had a lot of them on it. You're saying he only has a few, Martha? Okay. Okay. Chuck?
For security reasons, we
Yeah,
can't disclose that.
I'm a big proponent of AVL, automatic vehicle location for public safety. I think it serves a very important purpose for officers in the field, not just supervisors knowing where they are, but an officer gets in trouble and needs help and is not able to relay that information. It gives you a way of tracking him down. But the other part was, I think he said in the very beginning that this offer was until April 30th. So we do the test, we're past April 30th, what happens then? That's the question that I would pose.
Well, the question
Will they
is-
extend the date so that if we want to expand the project, that we can buy more units at the same initial offer where we're not paying the $169 or?
Leave it to try to put me on the spot with that. So we did work very hard to get approval for this particular pricing with the dates that we've got in place. I cannot commit to you at this juncture that I can offer you free equipment beyond April 30th. That's not something that I'm authorized to do.
So we're only talking about a 2-week window here,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not gonna
So,
happen.
we'll be able to swing the county a really good deal on the equipment, but will it be free if you decide in June, hey, we want to do 400 vehicles or something like that? That's something I'm going to have to go up the chain and
What we
request
want to do
approval
is
for.
quantify
Sure.
that the 50 units are going to give us the
Yeah.
savings we're looking at.
Well, and so what we're looking at here is if you guys want to do 50 devices, I would highly suggest if you can do an entire department, that's going to be your best sampling, because then you'll have a true A and B.
Well, I would think we would go to Public Works, right? So how many vehicles potentially do we have in Public Works?
We have more than 50.
I don't know. Let's say it's 100. Okay,
Yeah.
so if it's 100, let's assume it's 100, then we're talking a $10,000 expenditure for 90 days,
Right.
assuming you throw in the equipment for free.
yeah.
I mean, that's the only way I believe that we're gonna be able to do it. I mean,
we can do that.
I mean,
And-
that'll work. I
Yeah,
mean,
and the best part about this is, we asked for a 2-year commitment, but it's the same program as your phones. So you've got no early termination fee, so if it doesn't work, you can cancel it. It's gonna work.
Well, we're not going to enter into an agreement for
Sure.
2 years until we've been able to confirm these percentage, at least
Sure.
something that's,
Yeah.
I'd like to see something better than just paying for itself. And I think if what I'm hearing and what you're saying are the same thing, I think these things can. If anything, it may not give us a quantifiable savings, but it will be able to monitor potentially inappropriate driving conditions or routes. Are supposed to go from point A to point B, but they take detours to get to point B. So I think there is a lot of merit to this. But I mean, you guys are going to make some money on this if we enter into these contracts. You're not going to do it for free. But before, I'd like to see this is, give us a chance to try this.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you
Yeah,
guys give away
absolutely.
free phones for 2-year contracts or 3-year contracts at times, and I think that if this proves to be what is being represented, we got to, number one, I think we need to get past the bidding issue. Do we have to go out and bid this out?
Right.
Which I don't know at this point. But number two, let us have the ability to quantify, because if she doesn't come up with, and she being our auditor, if she doesn't come up with, hey, we can save $5,000 or $3,000 or $2,000 a month, then all of a sudden, hey, let's do this. But if she says, look, we didn't see anything, I mean, it's the same gas consumption, everything's the same, then the only thing we have to do is are we going to catch somebody doing what they're not supposed to be doing? And how can we quantify
Sure.
a dollar amount? So what is it that you're willing to do?
So if the county will commit to doing a 90-day pilot program for
Okay.
50 units, we can waive the equipment costs on
Well, we need more.
Oh, you need more?
Because now
than-
we're talking about maybe, somebody mentioned doing a whole department. Was it,
Oh, that was me.
well?
But if as many as you'd like to do, over 50, I've got authorization to waive the equipment charge for you,
Okay.
as long as you guys do it before the end of the month.
You mean enter into the contract before the end of the month, or the
uh,
agreement? Because it's not going to do us any good to look at 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, either way, you guys are going to place an order one way or one way or another. So the way that the state contract works, Judge, to answer your bid question, is this is just like any other solution that's on the Sprint bill. So it's DIR and HGAC compliant, so it's fully competed already from
Okay,
a
all
contractual
right.
perspective.
We're already with Sprint. This is just an additional resource.
Yeah, you guys
All
would
right.
just add, create a sub-account on your account, add the units to the account, and you're good to go. And what we will do, and you've got my commitment to do this, is we will sit down with your auditors and get some actual real numbers, your numbers, not another customer's numbers or anything like that, to come up with a true return on investment scenario that we will submit to the court at a future date. And that way you guys have something to bounce this against. So when you measure this, you'll be able to truly measure the success of the program.
Okay. Well, today is your presentation. We have one more meeting before the end of April. Is that when you all would be ready to place it on the agenda for approval, and then we can, as long as we do it before April 30th, we're okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our next meeting is 2 weeks from today, unless we put it on a special meeting for next week, but we can do that. And then by that time, we'll have a number as to how many units we want to be able to install this on.
Yeah, and what we'll need to know is we'll have a list of about 20 different questions that are going to pertain to those vehicles, everything from, their mileage to how much their fuel usage is, to how much the employees get paid per hour. I mean, things of that nature.
Okay, we can
We'll
do that.
gather all that data that pertains to those specific vehicles, and then at the next meeting, we'll be able to give that information to you guys.
All right, got 2 weeks.
And you're going to install the ones that
Yes.
give us the information on vehicle idling, speed, and all that? You're giving us the unit that's going to
Yes.
track everything?
Yeah, this does everything.
Okay.
And if I can add something, this unit is actually expandable. So 2 years from now, if you guys decide, hey, we want to start measuring the, every time the mixer goes on a concrete truck, for example, this has the capability of buying additional plug-and-play sensors that plug into it, so you can measure when the lights get turned on in a patrol vehicle, or when a garbage truck picks up a garbage can, things like that can give you additional utility. So you guys are going to get a great solution from the get-go that's going to enable you to do all these things, plus a lot more. I designed this to go over with you guys in 10 minutes, so I didn't do a deep dive with you today. And if you guys want a deep dive on the solution, I'm happy to meet with each of you individually if you like, and we can give you a software demonstration and really show you everything that it can do.
So, do we want to go and look at 50?
No, I think someone mentioned doing a whole department. Now, that's why I asked you, how many are there? Are there 100?
It'll be 50 plus, for sure.
So it'll be 50
okay.
plus. The motion today will just be to acknowledge the presentation and proceed.
And the other
as
thing, real
discussed.
quick, Judge, is the Health Department also has vehicles that they're interested in putting a system in. I think Pedro says he has about 20-plus vehicles
And do you have funding, Pedro?
that,
So you would be able to come in with that also on a,
Some of our funding is going to come from grants that have vehicles. Some is going to be from our internal general fund. If we jump in right now for the next 6 months, it'll cost me about $4,000. If we don't, then it's about $7,600. So it's about $3,600 more.
so you'd like to be included, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
'cause
Well, let's
now-
go ahead and do that. That's
Now the
fine.
equipment is free. So
Chuck?
That would be the advantage.
Okay.
Don't complicate things, Chuck.
No, my only question is does this demonstration period extend the funding if we decide to expand at the end of the demonstration period?
No, it does not. No, at this point, I'm authorized, anything you guys want to say, hey, we need 50, 100, 200, whatever you guys want, above 50, I'm authorized.
So that's a cap.
Absolutely, and if it comes to, hey, we've ran this for 90 days, we've ran it for 6 months, we've ran it for 2 years, and 2 years from now, you add 10 vehicles to your fleet, and you want to buy 10 more modems, then we'll have to look at what the pricing is at that time, and we've always done a great job of really putting the screws to us, to our management, and saying, hey, what kind of deal can we get Cameron County? Bottom line, that's what we always do. We want to make sure you guys get what you need as low as
Well,
possible.
maybe we ought to go a step further and say, send an email to our departments that might be interested and have identified funding that would consider it. And if they do have funding identified, and if they have vehicles in the departments, whatever department it is, and if they want to be included initially in the first phase, they wouldn't have to buy the equipment.
And let's just make sure that I mean, we ask you for 1,000 units. I want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Sure.
Your commitment is that you would provide, your company would provide free of charge the hardware,
Right.
basically. And that we would commit for as of now, you said it could go as long as we wanted, but for now, a 90-day trial period at the $33 per month per unit.
31.
correct.
31.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
3310.
Yeah, $33.10 per unit.
Yes.
for 90 days. And if we needed more time to expand that, you would honor the same 3310 per month,
that's our
per
state
unit.
contract price.
Right, okay? And you wouldn't come back and say, well, now we got to charge you for the equipment.
No.
Okay, just so we know, we're on the
No,
same
no.
page.
Now, by the same token,
unless,
though,
unless like in September you want to buy additional units, then I'll have to look at what the pricing is for the hardware at that time.
That's understandable.
well, but you see, the issue here is we're not saying we don't want to get one for every single vehicle we have. What we have to determine is, can the auditor certify by putting these in, we're not going to have an increase of additional expense that's not budgeted? Because we cannot commit because we don't have it in the budget. This trial period, what it's going to do, it's going to give her the opportunity to review the data and then say, you know what, based on these last 90 days, if each unit gets one of these, then I can certify that the savings will pay for it.
Right.
So we're not in a position to tell you, yes, we can get one for every unit.
I totally understand.
So what you're saying is, if we don't by the 30th of April say we want 600 units, then come June or July after the 90 days have run and Martha says, you know what, they will pay for themselves, we won't have that opportunity.
Then, well, that's what I'm saying, but what I'm also saying is that we've demonstrated over 14 years the willingness to go to upper management and say, hey, Cameron County is important.
Yeah, look,
but
bottom line is if you don't, then we walk. We walk.
And then you
And we
lose
just say,
all of
well,
your contracts.
as they say in Shark Tank, I'm out. Look, why don't we do this?
You've got my commitment. When the time comes, if you guys are
Why don't we
ready
do
to
this?
hopefully we will ask for, similar prices.
How many months do we have left in our fiscal year? We got May, June, July, August, September. We got 5 more months. So we should be able to evaluate within the next 120 days, which would be, 4 months, when we start our budgetary process. By the time we get that started, she should have a pretty good feel as to whether or not this thing is working, because we're going to start our budgetary process probably within the next 120 days. So by that time, she's going to know whether this is functioning or not. So then we can budget, I think Commissioner Sanchez is right, concerned about the budget and the impact, because it's always at the end of the day, that's what it is. So, but by that time, Marta would be able to have evaluated the impact of this, and then we can incorporate into the budget. If we want to bring other units in and we got to pay a little bit, I understand, but chances are you probably will not ask us to pay, because we're bringing in a lot more fleets into this. And you've got a certain break. I mean, you've got to know what your fixed cost is, and after a certain number, it's no longer a fixed cost. You're actually making money after a certain number, right?
Sure.
That's the way it is. I mean, you may lose money on the first 4 at 3310, but from the rest of them, you're making some pretty good money.
Yeah.
Correct?
And to your point, Judge, when we look at stuff like this, and I'm a cards face up kind of guy, we look at a metric called customer lifetime value, or CLV, right? So when we subsidize a handset, for example, we give you a phone for free or a phone for $50. That phone really costs $300, maybe $400 for that.
Well, that's retail.
Well, that's retail. But there's not a whole lot of room to play on there. So,
Made in China.
Our break-even point on most customers is typically about 18 months. That's really what it looks like. That's where the 2-year contract really comes from.
Right. And you've been with us for how long?
It's the
You've
renewal.
been with us for 14 years.
So you've more than broken even, right?
And we supply you with, low-cost devices on an annual or semi-annual basis as well. So
Right.
it's really
That sometimes don't work, but it's okay.
So we're working along.
Well, let's move forward. Okay, Chuck, one more thing.
I just wanted to clarify, this is a demonstration period. We're not starting a 2-year contract.
That's
And
correct.
if things do not work out, you might have to take your equipment back.
That's correct.
You guys can walk out.
That's correct.
Let me ask one, based on the corporate partnership we have and the 14 years and the way telephones are nowadays, it seems the older the unit, the cheaper the price of it when you go to buy one or you go to renew a contract. I don't see these little modules that you have changing in any way, shape, or form, 6 months from now or a year from now. So there's no way in my mind, I have them on my vehicles, that's why, not this particular one, but I do have, that's gonna, it's pretty much it forever. how, the price should be pretty constant, if not lower. At some point in time, I wouldn't be surprised to see you offering these things for almost nothing for individuals to have them for their cars. And as long as they pay the monthly fee in a 2-year contract.
Your assessment, Commissioner, is pretty spot on when it comes to a modem pricing. It is pretty static and constant. So this particular device came out in November of last year. So it's a pretty new device. That said, 2 years from now, will bigger, better, smaller, faster, with more features come out? Maybe, probably, right? What impact will that have on the actual cost of the device? I don't know, because I'm not in the pricing team and I don't have a crystal ball. That said, I don't see us having a different price for the hardware based on my 9 years at Sprint and seeing what we do with our modem pricing. I don't see us having the price drop on this for everybody if you want to buy one unit for a plumbing company.
Can you make each unit a hotspot too? Might as well,
Right, I mean, yeah, we can make the car fly and, all
Then you're no longer on 2G, right?
No, I'm saying a Wi-Fi hotspot, okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, there are other modems that do those things. Right, and the costs go up for the hardware depending on what you want it to do and everything. So we've actually been talking with the county for years about fleet management because we live here. We know that you guys need this kind of stuff for an organization of your size. This is the first time we've been able to put something in front of you that was actually really feasible from a hardware cost standpoint. And so you have my commitment that we will go to bat for Cameron County when the time comes, provided everything is successful and you guys say, hey, we want to roll this out. We'll be a case study for Sprint, all that great stuff. Then we'll be able to go to our upper management and say, hey, we did the free thing back then. Can we do something similar now? What can we do?
Okay, well,
and we'll have to go
at this
from there.
point, let's do this. I'll hear a motion to acknowledge the report, the presentation, and proceed. And then in the interim between now and our next meeting, can you sit down with our auditor, Public Works? Now, Marta, you or somebody needs to send out an email to all the departments saying, we're going into this. If you have any vehicles, whomever's going to do it, send an email. Well, it's going to be budgetary, so at some point, she's going to have to get involved as well. Like Peter just came up, hey, we can use 20 units. Well, maybe the county clerk can use 2 units or whatever it is, and just take it from there, and then come back in 2 weeks with a cost estimate.
On the hotspot, we were just visiting Sidebar over here. We buy cards for people like on a weekly basis. The DA's office, the sheriff's office, all these other things. If that's provided as an incorporated service where you could get both together, it might be something that more folks would be interested in.
Sure. So this particular device and program, that's not really the intended
Just speak into the mic.
Okay. I completely understand where you're going. Our experience has been the more stuff you try to get a device to do, the less effective it's going to be at any one particular thing, right? Kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
I have an Apple phone and it does a lot of things.
It does a lot of things, right? And once in a while, they freak out and you got to reboot them and stuff like that. So typically, what we do in a vehicle scenario is we'll deploy a custom design solution to provide internet connectivity. If you want a bubble of internet around a vehicle or something of that nature, we've got other solutions that we can recommend for that. This particular solution is designed just for fleet management applications.
Let me ask you this. Do you have a solution that does both?
We do have other solutions, absolutely. The equipment is significantly more. Yeah, it's anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a modem.
But what's the monthly cost? Is it the same?
You're going to run, for the data service package that you're going to need, it's going to be around $40, $50 a month. And then you're going to need the GPS vendor. In this case, it's Geotab, and their services generally run around $20 to $30 a month.
Well, let's just do what we're talking about, and if anything else pops up that you think might be of use that's affordable, just talk about it. I think they're all good points, but we started off with little a, and now we're expanding it to more, and that's not why we're here. So, okay, everybody know?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the report and proceed as discussed.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Garza. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to let the court know that we will start the budget process in mid-May. So this information and this plan being implemented, we'll have to do it very quickly and move with it very quickly.
Well, it's got
so
90
we can
days.
So we can get the data, because we'll have to, if it does work out the way we see it working, we anticipate, then we can incorporate this in our budget for FY 14.
Okay. I had a motion, a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item C, presentation requested by Cesar Perez, Cancer Insurance Specialist.
Morning, Judge,
Yes,
Commissioners.
sir. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. First of all, I want to point out that my plans are all employee-sponsored, so we won't be dealing with any budget issues with the
Javier,
county in regards
excuse me
to
just
an
a second.
employer-sponsored.
I need you just a second.
Don't leave,
Go ahead.
Javier.
All right. I'd like to point out, first of all, our company, Family Heritage, is part of the Torchmark Corporation. We, like I said earlier, we provide employee paid plans, specifically dealing with the cancer, cardiac, heart attack, stroke, accident, life, and hospital indemnity plans. Now, I'm also on the consent agenda to get approval to be allowed to speak to the employees. Again, these are all voluntary plans, not employer-sponsored plans. Now, why should we, I know there's other providers out there as well. What's the difference between Family Heritage and our current providers? Well, there's one big difference. We provide a lot of the similar services, hospitalization, surgeries, therapies, whatnot, in regards to our plans, with one big difference. With our plans, we create a win-win situation for our clients in a sense that if you don't ever use, for example, if somebody were to buy our cancer plan and never be diagnosed with cancer, we refund 100% of all of their premiums back to them. Okay? And we provide that on all our plans. Our heart attack and stroke plan, nobody ever gets a heart attack or stroke, or you don't get diagnosed, we refund 100% of all the premiums back to the
Are they all, and that's, I'll tell you what, I've never heard of that.
Right.
I have never heard of any insurance of any type of thing. You're starting to sound like Allstate, don't have a wreck when you start reimbursing some of your premiums. But I've never heard of that where if someone is fortunate enough never to be diagnosed, you refund. Now, up to what time frame? I mean, do they have to pass away and they never did that?
Actually,
or what?
we have it's designated for individuals 55 and under, that they get reimbursed at age 65 or 25 years, whichever comes first.
Okay, so most of us up here
Get it.
don't qualify,
In that
so.
regard, with those individuals
Okay,
that
can we
are-
move on to the other item? It doesn't matter.
Hey, I just turned 40, so I still have.
I said most of us.
With those individuals that are over 56, the premiums, let's say, for example, somebody were to have the cancer plan and they pass away from a heart attack, but they didn't have their heart attack plan. The premiums that were paid into the cancer plan would be passed on to the beneficiaries. So even at that point, all of the money put into the plan gets passed to somebody else within their family. So the way we like to showcase this is to say that our plans provide ownership for the client. In other words, they own the plan. So the money that puts in, either they're going to get it back with the unfortunate circumstance of being diagnosed with something, and they're going to receive funds through that, or they're going to receive all of their premiums back, or somebody in their survivorship will receive that as well. So all of the monies paid into the plan, one way or another, comes to the family. Comes right back to the family.
How do y'all make any money?
Well, once again, if you look at our Torchmark Corporation and part of our group,
Did you have was there a package or something?
I did provide a package.
Oh,
There
okay.
should have been a package provided. On item 2 of our 2012 annual report for Torchmark, we had $507 million in operating income. 70% of that were through underwriting, was through underwriting income. Only less than 30% is through investment income. So really, the net profits through our margins on our investments is quite high, just on the marketing, the underwriting as well. So the idea behind it is that not only is there investment income provided by all our clients that never use it, but also through the underwriting portion of this as well.
You said that if you're, and I didn't notice it on the consent, if that's already been approved, then you're already authorized to do that. I mean.
Judge, I just wanted to come and share, because I'm really excited to provide something that most people in our community have never heard about.
I've never heard of it.
Right, and I've requested the opportunity to come and speak, because, you know, our hope, my goal is not just to begin a process or a relationship with the county employees,
Now, let me ask
but also
you,
with the
yeah,
community.
let me ask a question. We always welcome anybody and everybody. I don't believe we've actually told anybody, no, do not.
That's correct.
Yeah, do not. We've always been very open to give everybody an opportunity, free enterprise.
Sure.
You come in and you do that. And if we've already passed I didn't see it, but did we pass in the consent item? Okay, to give you the permission to speak to all the employees. We just ask that you don't, if you can, as best you can, not disrupt their level of during work. Now,
That's correct.
I would imagine the reason that you're here and to do this is because you need probably a direct deposit or automatic pay withdrawal on our system. That's why you're here. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
Yeah,
already
so-
been, I believe that's already been you know, addressed as well. So, because there's previous providers that offer that, so there might be just, you know.
No, I mean, I understand. I'm just saying that's what because sometimes I hear from the auditor, like, we're running out of space and we're doing this and we're doing that. So I just want to make sure has that already been agreed to? I don't remember seeing that anywhere.
No, we have not looked at this, or as far as doing the deduction, if the court approves it, if it's health-related and it meets the criteria that we need to do to have a deduction, then we will.
This be part
do
of our
the legislation.
cafeteria plan as well?
Actually, no, that's one of the benefits. I consider it a benefit. One, it'll reduce some of the documentation because of the return of premium portion on our plan.
So this would not be
These are all after tax.
pre-tax dollars?
Exactly. They have to be after tax because of the return of premium portion.
Gotcha.
So one, it reduces some of the documentation that's required for the
So you don't
cafeteria
need
plans.
so, okay, I understand that.
Secondly, it provides, you know, sometimes, you know, there's circumstances for individual employees that they have to try to exit their cafeteria plans, and they can't because they're stuck in the plan. With our plans, you know, we don't have any specified open enrollment, so they can come in and out of our plan as long as they can afford it and want to continue with the plan as well. So it provides a lot of flexibility in that sense.
So this isn't really, okay, because some of the discussion that we've had over the years, whenever we have vendors come up and they want to do something like this, there's always a cost associated with this in terms from our part.
Right.
Which I don't know how much administrative stuff we need to do. You know, I don't know. I mean, we've always just gone ahead and done it because it is a benefit to the employee. But keep in mind that it doesn't benefit the county as an entity dollar-wise in any way.
Right.
This is all paid for by the employee that, you know, if he or she are willing to participate, right?
That's correct. That's correct, sir.
Okay. Just one more question from me.
Sure.
Your average monthly rates on a person of 35 to 40 years old?
Well, I'll give you an example. I'm 41 years old. I have a family of 5, I mean, all together with my wife and 3 kids. I pay a $55 rate on my cancer plan for all 5 of us.
Okay, and it's pre-tax also as well?
This would be after tax.
Now, what happens to somebody that retires or leaves the county to go someplace else? Can they take that plan with them?
Yes, sir. They're portable plans.
At
you
the
know,
same rate?
They continue on.
Everything's the same?
Every year, once the individual starts a plan, they stay locked into that rate until
As
they
long as
decide to
want.
cancel it. Yeah.
So is there any other way that you would do it other than a automatic withdrawal, automatic pay deduction?
Sure, of course. I mean, there's individuals that say, you know what, I don't want to deduct it. I just
Okay,
direct
so
deposit
the
it for 'em.
employee has that flexibility as well?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, why wouldn't we just say, go ahead and do it? We don't want automatic pay deductions. Why wouldn't you just
Well-
deal with 1,500 people?
Well, from that standpoint, the employees tend to prefer the deductions through their payroll deduction. It just seems to be easier.
So would
for
you
them
all
on-
too. I mean,
you know,
makes it a
it
lot
makes it
easier.
easier for everybody.
Okay.
But from that respect, you know, whether I get a direct deposit or a check from the employee,
That doesn't
or
matter.
it goes over there.
Well, again,
it comes.
this type of plan is the first I've ever heard of, and this is only the first I've ever heard a vendor say, it doesn't matter to me whether it's an automatic deduction or whatever it is. We just want, you know, to get, you know.
We want to, you know, I want to be, first of all, when you can offer a plan that says, hey, if you don't ever need it, we're going to give you all your money back. You know, it really turns the difference on, you know, how do you want to get this set up?
Yeah, but your premiums are also a little bit higher, though, than
You know,
than normal, right?
It depends on, actually, I was speaking, I do actually have some county employees that I've reached outside of here, and they're very comparable, sometimes less. It just depends on
Okay.
the age and whatnot of the
Well, I
individual.
tell you, I've never heard of that.
Well, I'm happy to be, to put this out here for the county and our community.
Appreciate it.
And this is just something that I'm excited about, and just another step to getting something that's really positive for individuals out there, specifically dealing with, you know, our high instance of cancer, heart attack, and stroke in this area that I think is very valuable as well. So thank you for your time.
Does your company
Yes, ma'am.
also have the same policies, like if you've been diagnosed with cancer in the past?
You
have to wait a certain amount of time before you're...
It depends on the type. You know, now we do have exclusions, obviously, for certain types of cancers, and the time period on certain types of internal cancers. But for example, if somebody had gallbladder cancer and it was removed, and well, you no longer have a gallbladder, well, you're not going to get gallbladder cancer again. So there are opportunities to be covered under the plan, because it's not going to be something that's going to be recurring. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your patience
Appreciate it.
and waiting for us.
No, thank you so much for your
I
time.
guess now you just work with the auditor Human Resources and the auditor, okay?
Move to acknowledge.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Gatsa to acknowledge. I have a second.
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item E, presentation of annual reports by the City of Harlingen.
Judge and Commissioners, Mr. Gabriel Gonzalez and Elvia Trevino with the City of Harlingen are here to present this report.
Thank you, Frank. Gabe, how are you?
Fine, sir.
Thank you for waiting.
Oh, not a problem. I enjoyed listening to your
dialogue.
to your meeting. Yes, I hadn't been to one where I actually stayed the whole time, so it was actually good to be here. Good morning, and thank you for having us here. In your packet, you should have had a report on each of our zones. We have 3 in Harlingen. I'd like to go over those with you real quick. Starting with TIF number 1, we have had no activity in that, no projects in that TIF zone. Our assets are $747 in cash. Like I said, we have had no activity, no projects approved in that TIF zone. TIF number 2, also, we've had no projects approved, although we did issue developer's agreement for a project, but it was turned down. He did not take the offer. Again, that TIF has cash on hand of $602,000 approximately.
Where is that number on there?
If you take the fund balance at the top of the page,
Okay.
then you have to add your total annual revenues together.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you just subtract the $806 that we have in expenses. That's where you get that number from.
So you don't show it on your report?
No, it wasn't shown.
So what was it on number 1? What was the total?
Number 1, it was $351,747.
Okay, and then number 2 we gave?
$602,662.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And TIF Zone 3, which is the one everyone's probably familiar with, is the area that's covered by Bass Pro Shops and Harlingen Corners. That actually has cash on hand of $255,454. Now that does have 2 projects that were approved by that TIF. In your report, you'll see an expenditure of $100,000. That was the first payment towards one of the projects. That was the Harlingen Corners project. And the second was the issuance, the city issued $5.2 million in debt for road construction. The TIF board agreed to reimburse the city for those expenditures.
So there's been no reimbursements to that debt yet?
Not to that, no. We haven't fully issued all the debt yet, so we just approved the last 3.2 at the last city council meeting, so that hasn't been done yet.
And the zones 1 and 2 monies will be pulled, right? Or that's the intent, to cover some of that debt also?
No, sir. We went to the TIF boards and talked about doing that, joining all 3 TIF zones, but the board at that time decided not to do that. So the funds
So
have
they're
to...
staying separate?
Yes, they have to
Okay.
stay at this point. Now, in the future, if that happens, then it's possible to pool the
I
funds.
know there was a strong push going on to try to pull them,
Right.
I didn't know if other meetings were held since I last attended.
No, sir, that was the last one where we
Okay.
actually discussed that issue.
Okay.
And since you are a member, you get all our agendas that we have
Right.
for...
Well, I just didn't know, I said, maybe I missed one,
No, we wouldn't exclude you out, we'd have to include
Okay,
you.
just wanted to make sure.
But that's all the activity that we've had on our zones. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Gabe, thank you. Any questions, comments? Just one question, on these zones, if we have no activity in the zone, what benefit is it to us to continue participating? In any of, and I don't mean, I'm not being specific to the city of Harlingen, I'm just saying in all the zones. I mean, if we have 0 projects in the zone, why should we be contributing our dollars and just having it sit there? I can't answer that. The only thing I would anticipate would be for future development.
Now, the one thing I can address that as far as the city of Harlingen goes, when we created the zones, we decided that the TIF zones themselves are not going to issue any debt. So the city would. So it's kind of pay as you go. As a TIF generates revenue, then we'll reimburse whatever project was funded. Now, there are projects within the TIF zones that have been identified by the city because you have to have that in your project plan.
Right.
So as the revenue is collected and we have funds to actually sufficiently fund a particular road, then we'll go ahead and do that. But for the short term, you won't see any activity because as far as the city of Harlingen is concerned, we need to generate the revenue and create the fund balance to actually fund a full project. Shy of the city issuing debt ourselves like we did at TIF 3.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it from a fiduciarily responsible point of view as a commissioner. I mean, if we have zones all over that are inactive, just accumulating monies that we're paying in, how do we benefit? Legal? I mean, is this, how long do we go? I mean, theoretically, we could go 15 years on these zones. No, these are 15-year zones, aren't they?
Well, the county's participation is, but not the zones. The
Right.
zones have a longer
The
life
county's
than that.
participation. So, here we are on a yearly basis, putting tax dollars into fund balances. How do I, as a sitting commissioner in this commissioner's court, fiduciarily show to my constituency that I'm being responsible in collecting dollars to put them into savings? Do you gather my drift?
You're supposed to have a full report, for one thing.
Well, I have a full report, but, these projects, for example, the first zone, both first and second zone, right, were like established in 2005.
2008
And
is when we actually started collecting revenue.
based on taxable increment base in 2005?
That was a tax year that we took for the actual zones themselves.
Right.
Right, but we
Okay.
didn't create them in 2005.
Okay, so we're sitting here and understand this is not like, I'm not targeting you. You just happen to be the agenda item that allows me to ask these questions. We're creating a fund balance in these zones with dollars that have 0 projects. I mean, isn't part, and Frank, maybe you can help me here. I mean, in the agreements that we have, do we have like timelines in which projects have to be started within?
I can answer that, Commissioner. Anytime you've approved a zone.
Well, I want legal to answer.
Well, but I can kind of help her. Anytime you've had a zone created, the city, whatever town it was, whether it's Brownsville, Harlingen, or San Benito, has to give you a complete packet that includes a project plan.
I know.
And you can go back to those and identify what projects within the zone are going to get created. Now, there is no timeline that's required in those reports, just the activity itself.
Yeah, but the activity should include a project, because we could theoretically, fund balances for the next 15 years in 2 zones.
Well, that's some of the concerns that we have tried to address, with the last revision, that we made to the TERS agreement to try to bring some accountability for monies on deposit or being sent to them with respect to certain zones, certain projects. If you'll recall, we had a discussion of, I think, whether or not we would have a 10% flexibility, for them to move money, that sort of thing.
Right.
I hear your concern, and I think it is a legitimate concern when we continue to contribute increment money, to a fund that is not spending that money on projects that have been authorized. And quite frankly, without going in and researching the law and figuring out what our rights are, I'm not sure I can answer your question right this minute.
I think we need to probably put it on the agenda for discussion and for all the TERS, not just for yours or whatever.
Well, one of the things to consider, Commissioner, is that you actually haven't paid any money into these TIFs. All that's city money.
One of the questions I have is, when we create these zones, projects are identified, we need this money because we're going to put in sidewalks, we're going to put in utility, we're going to put in whatever. And so I guess the issue is, if they don't do that, do we get the money back? Or do they have the entire period to do that?
So we've paid zero?
You haven't paid anything yet, no.
You haven't billed us?
Yes, we have. But
We haven't paid you.
no, you wanted us
Because
to
you
make a
haven't
report. I'm sorry?
We wanted a report first.
Yes,
But
yes.
why should we pay you? There's no expenses. At the end of the day, Gabe,
Well, as I explained earlier, we've got projects identified that we've given a report to the county on. It's just a matter of generating revenue to actually pay for those, Commissioner. It's that simple.
This is, of course, basically a financing tool. And so the bonding companies that are writing the bonds over there are wanting us to stand by it. The problem, as I see it, and you put your finger on it, I think, Commissioner, is, okay, where is it that we justify tying up this kind of county money when projects that are supposed to be planned are not started or not in the, don't even appear to be in the offing? If that's what the situation is, then there is some issue.
So these projects are not underway and you don't have any intent in...
That's for TIF 1 and 2. Now, we actually made an offer for TIF 2, but the developer decided not to take the developer's agreement.
well, we need to pay you on 3 because, that's ongoing.
And Commissioner, we've got projects identified in TIF 1 and 2, but we don't want to issue debt to get them underway, so we're waiting to build the fund balance so we can actually undertake those projects.
But what projects do you have identified?
Oh, Commissioner, there's several. And I can get you another
Just
copy
an
of...
example.
Well, for TIF 3, for instance, we're going to extend...
No, in 1 and 2.
Road construction. Everything that we do has to be for public infrastructure. You've got to do roads, water, or sewer.
But why do you need the developer's participation?
Because in some cases, a developer will come to the city and say, this is my plan, I want to build this subdivision, but I need to build this road through it. So we'll say, okay, we'll pay for that road if it's a public road, but we'll reimburse you for it. You have to pay for it up front, and then we'll reimburse you on an annual basis as we collect revenue. And the developer in this particular case wanted us to actually issue debt on the city's behalf to pay for that road construction, and we said, no, we're not going to do that.
Well, but isn't it before you began the TIF, you identified the projects and what you were going to do?
Yes.
So if a developer, did you identify a road that a developer now doesn't want to create, or?
No, he came up with the road himself.
So if he came up with it, that wasn't a project you identified. How are you able to do the road?
You can amend your project plan to actually account for that. And then in each of the TIFs, we accounted for about a 10% contingency. There were projects that were not identified that we could use, for instance, in this particular case, to pay for that road construction.
Okay, so the projects that were identified, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of these TIFs or TERS are to create infrastructure to attract business, correct?
Yes, yes.
And so that infrastructure, you don't wait on the developer to come in and say, yes, we want it. You basically came to us saying, in this area, we want to put in these roads, we want to put in these sidewalks, we want to put in these bike trails, and those are going to get put in regardless of what development comes. You hope to attract development by starting those projects.
Right, and the only thing that we did in that scenario that you just described is we said we would like to build up the revenue in each of the TIF zones to have sufficient funds to pay for those particular projects. Now, in this case, in TIF 3, we had an unusual circumstance where we had a national box retailer come to the city and says, look, I want to locate in this town, but I need these roads and I need them now. So we had to take a different approach and issue the debt on the city's behalf to actually undertake the projects that are in the TIF.
But you understand that by putting the roads in, you've created the enterprise, right?
Yes.
TIF 1 and 2 has no enterprise, right?
Well, we haven't had anybody come into the city and say, look, we want to locate in this particular zones.
Well, right, but isn't the whole purpose of the TIFs or the TERS to make that the magnet? In other words, we're going to develop this area so the businesses will come. You're waiting for the businesses to come and then say, oh, we'll build it.
Not exactly. We're waiting for the TIF funds to generate sufficient revenue so that we can start those projects because...
And that goes back to what Commissioner Garza is saying. You're going to use us as a piggy bank, and when we've raised enough money, then we'll go build the project.
Well, you actually haven't given us any money. All those funds and those TIFs are city funds, so we're actually putting money into those accounts ourselves.
Right.
The TIF zones are in their infancy. They haven't been around for a long time, so...
But isn't the purpose to be able to issue debt and for the bonding companies to rely on the generation of that money?
No, they don't have to issue debt. That's only an option. When we created the TIF zones, we decided that we were not going to have the TIFs issue debt themselves to pay for projects.
So you're going to wait 10 or 12 years to raise enough money to then do it?
Well, in some cases, for the projects that we've identified, perhaps that may happen. But in, for instance, like TIF 2, the developer came to us and we said, we will completely fund the public infrastructure side of your development, but we'll reimburse you on a yearly basis what funds we have for that project. And that's a viable option as well, but he decided not to do that.
Was that the Cottonwood place?
Yes.
Could I ask this question? When is it that the bonding companies out there that you all deal with, the financing source, let's say, when is it that you actually apply to them to obtain money on the credit that you've built with the increment zones?
Okay, that's another reason why we didn't want the TIF zones to issue debt, because the rating agencies wouldn't give them the rating that they've given the city, because they wouldn't have the full faith and credit of the city of Harlingen. It would just be on the revenue that they would generate. So they would probably pay a higher rate of interest than the city would. That's one reason that the city on TIF 3 decided to issue the debt ourselves, because we would get a better rate than the TIF zone would, because it's the full faith and credit of the city versus the TIF, which would not have that option. But to answer your question, whenever we decide to issue debt, our financial advisor would call Fitch, Standard & Poor's, and then they would have a meeting with the city, and then they'd issue the rating just before the debt's issued.
Okay, but I guess I'm getting more into the mechanics of it rather than the theory of it. If you have a TERS zone and you have no projects for that zone, you're not seeking money for that zone. Is that what you're telling us? In other words, you're building up money, county taxpayer money, in a TIF reserve account, basically, and adding to that with your investment. Are you investing that money?
Okay, to answer your question, when you create a TERS,
yes,
it just doesn't start to receive revenue. You've got to have development come in, because you generate your revenue of new development in the zone, plus any increases in the price value that happen in that zone.
Okay, so at this point, that gets back to your point that we haven't put any money in TERS 2 because there's no increase because there's no development.
No, there is development. You just haven't put any money in because We were told to come make this report to the Commissioners Court before we got the invoice approved.
We have to have an annual report.
Yes, yes. Yes,
Well, that's what this is,
yes,
and that's what you've done.
yes.
So we're done. Moved by Commissioner Gatsa to acknowledge. Do we have a
Second.
by Commissioner Sanchez. No further discussion.
Be expecting a bill.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Thank you. I think that's it for the
bridge.
open session. Oh, no, we got one more. No, I was asked to table item F. So let's table here. Motion to table by Commissioner Hernandez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. I think that takes care of our open session. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
We didn't have a presentation on the second, oh, that's the one we tabled, sorry.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Gatsa to go into an executive session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. I've been asked to table item 5A and 5E, so those will not be discussed. Item B, legal issues regarding pending legislation pursuant to Code Section 551.072. Item C, pursuant to Code Section 551.0712 and 551.087. And then item D, pursuant to Code Section 551.0711A.